leaves all things conjoined. The past, the future, and the present. Everything flows, and all is connected. His eye is not merely seeing reality, it is touching the truth.
We are live. Welcome to Digital Renegade Podcast. I'm your host, Dashing Rogue, and I'm with my frequent sidekick, Artistic Layman.
You? Him? He's a panda. You're a panda. What are you gonna do, big guy? Sit on me? Don't tempt me.
Yeah, don't tempt him. Don't tempt Jack Black. Is that from Kung Fu Panda?
It is.
You know, the thing about Kung Fu Panda that I liked is they got all the basic martial arts people. They got Jet Li, they got fucking Jackie Chan, and they got a bunch. I think did they have Lucy Liu in that as well?
Lucy Liu. Oh yeah, Lucy Liu was in this. She was the snake.
Of course, she's the fucking snake.
But the reason why I was reminded of it, because with everything I've learned from James Lindsay, I can't help but notice all the hermetic and Gnostic undertones of the entire cult community.
You know, we're gonna have a conversation about that eventually, because the problem that I actually looked up Eric Vogel, and the guy who actually talks about the Gnostic tendencies, and unfortunately, he's a perennialist, dude. And perennialism is basically, I want to say, how can I describe it? Hey, Mitch, how you doing? Welcome. Mitch, is that you? Mitch?
He's muted.
He's muted, yeah. If I could unmute his ass. Nope.
Oh,
wrong one.
Gone.
I hope not. I hope I'm not being fucking raided. I gave it to him on Mitch, I've given you the connection on I gave you the link on Twitter, and I also gave it to you via your Discord account, so you could join in. By the way, we're gonna have Mitch on. He's a friend of the show. He's also a fan of the show. He's gonna be on here soon. But continue what you were saying regarding Whoa, Dashing and Layman live on Saturday. Yeah, it's Saturday, buddy. We're gonna do a show specifically so we can get Mitch on, but I don't know why. He'll take his time, because the biggest problem with the internet is that you have people in Romania, you have people in, let's say, the UK, and people all over the United States, and some places, Oceania and whatnot, and you all have to try to get people on at the same time. But Eric Vogel, I'm hesitant. I'm very hesitant to listen to him anymore, specifically because of the perennial doctrine nonsense, which was very much a Fabian socialist way of conducting oneself. I mean, the only perennialists I know of are Aldous Huxley, and I don't like Huxley, because Huxley he was a Fabian socialist. You can't trust people who are Fabians. I mean, if you really want to know an example of another Fabian socialist that's more popular, go look up Tony Blair. He was a Fabian socialist.
And so you're concerned about listening to him because you're afraid he's going to lead you down the wrong path?
I'm afraid that he's going to unnecessarily make things mystical, and then because they're mystical, if it's mystical, if you're into mysticism and stuff like that, you're going to eventually go to gurus. So there will be a priesthood or a priest caste that shows up as a direct result of what's going on when you mystify things. So Eric Vogel basically comes to the conclusion that a lot of the reason why the communists and the Nazis go to Gnosticism is because they're alienated, and their alienation, they want to just tear down the entire system. Well, sometimes the system has to be torn down. Sometimes the system has to be reformed, even, right? But too often times I see people who want the end of history. They want that Francis Fukuyama, so to speak, end of history type of thing. And I don't believe in the end of history. I just believe in the end of something, whether it be the day or whether it be the era or what have you. But it's never going to be the end of history. History is written by the victors. And the problem here is that too often I see people wanting to win at any cost and all costs. So I'm going to have to look more into Eric Vogel, because I don't like the idea that we're using Gnosticism as a metaphor, but in reality, it's no different than saying Jesus was a socialist or Muhammad was a feminist, or that Joan of Arc was a feminist because she was a extraordinary woman of her time, right?
I have
So
no
like,
idea.
no, I mean, I just don't like the idea of basically creating another group of people that we have to that we should be listening to. Like, I'm not going to swap one lie for another, right? I don't want to be that guy.
Is that even a thing at this point? Because with what we know, that shouldn't be an issue.
Well, if people keep mystifying reality and they keep saying, "Well, this is Gnosticism," I mean, look at what like apparently James Lindsay blocked Carl Benjamin, Sargon of Akkad, right?
Okay.
You heard about that, right?
I have no idea.
Oh, you don't know about it. So apparently James Lindsay actually. Let me see if I can find the actual tweet because we're going to be shooting from the hip here until we get Mitch on. Because I've already. By the way, Mitch, if you're there, I've already given you the link. I can give it to you again if you're down. But one of the things that I noticed is that little baby Carl Benjamin, little baby Sargon. He got rejected by James Lindsay because James Lindsay is really pushing this notion that hidden knowledge is bad. Hidden knowledge is bad. I'm like, well, really? Well, what about hidden knowledge is bad? Is it hidden knowledge coming from divine revelation, or is it just the fact that I know how to like set up a AV and audio equipment and you don't?
It's the former.
Yeah, but then the problem becomes, well, who gets to control what is gnosis and who isn't? Because keep in mind, Eric Vogel was using the Nag Hammadi library and the whole notion of gnosis outside of its historical context to make an allegory for the totalitarian governments of the Nazis and the socialists and the communists at the time. How that they rejected the end of history that Christianity has, which is basically, the end of the world where Christ will come and everyone will and heaven will never come to earth except after everything goes down. See if I can get. Okay, he responded. I gave it to him, saying based. If I can get him on here. Let's see. If I can get him in here. I'm gonna send it to you one more time, Mitch. Check your Twitter. That was FDR and Truthman. That was FDR. Yeah, you're gonna have to. Is he there? No, he's not. He's on Discord. I'll send it to you via. There you go. We'll wait for you to get on. You can come on. I've already let you in. I just am wondering to myself. Just need to get you in here, and I could eventually get the permissions right. Wolf says, I will say that the thing about going on the Gnosticism is, yeah, you're going on the Gnosticism. Oh, that's something totally. He's in freaking another Discord right now. He's probably having a conversation, but we're gonna just continue talking. I will say that the thing about Gnosticism going on about Gnosticism is you will eventually purity spot exactly, and the problem here is how. Oh, there he is. Are you there? Good. Hey, good.
Apologies.
It's all good. It's all good. Luke, you can put on his. There he is. I hope you don't mind us using.
How late am I? Sorry, I was just making dinner.
No, it's all good, mate. It's all good. Well, we were talking. You're not that late. It's only been 15 minutes or so, so it's not a big deal.
God, that's all
and
right.
even then,
I'll move on to my computer as well, so you can hear me and hear my dulcet tones better.
right on. So we were going to mostly just talk on here. Like, we could talk about anything you want. I mean, I was talking earlier about Gonzalo Lira or Coach Red Pill.
Oh, please talk about that. Oh, please do. I have opinions on that.
All right. Well, you can go ahead and start. What are your opinions on Coach Red Pill or Gonzalo Lira?
Good riddance. He got what he fucking deserved.
Yes, he fucking did just get exactly what he deserved.
This is the problem with fucking Gonzalo Lira, right? So he moves to Kiev or wherever it was in Ukraine, and I think it was originally for sex pat reasons. The guy was a known degenerate. All right, this has been known for years, and then I think at one point somehow he ended up with a family. Maybe that was for, maybe it was an anchor baby, so he didn't get deported.
I don't know if it was an anchor baby, but from what I understand, he used to brag about how he had a bunch of kids. He had more kids with more women, and therefore he was a more alpha type of guy. And in reality,
So
the
he did it.
situation is that he's more like, I've always said he's like Kevin Spacey. He's the fucking Spanish Kevin Spacey. He looks like it too if you look at his older videos. But then he slowly
Chilean,
evolved.
yeah.
Yeah,
Chilean, yeah.
Chilean.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, most Chileans are not like him, thankfully. So he goes over there, knocks up a load of Ukrainian women, or I don't know if any of them are foreign. And then the war hits, and what does he do? He decides the best thing to do for his grift is to shill for the Russians in Ukraine rather than leave the first day of the war. By the way, I have a friend. You may remember him. He's called True Dill Tom. Do you
Right on.
remember him?
I do not recall him, but I think I've encountered him a couple times.
Australian YouTuber used to talk a lot about philosophy and stuff. Had a lot of retro wave imagery and stuff like that. But anyway, he worked in Ukraine for a while before the war. As soon as the war hits, what did my mate Dylan do? He left the first day. He was living in Kiev, so maybe that helped. I don't know. But Gonzalo decided, in his infinite wisdom, to be like a war correspondent, but really he was an agent of the Russians. Let's be honest. That's exactly what he was doing, running propaganda campaigns probably from his home, getting tips from his handlers on what to say and what to do. And what did the Ukrainians do? Just like what the British did, like what the Germans and the Americans did. They arrested him because he was an enemy agent in the war zone.
Amen. Amen. And
And then they
Go
put
on.
him in house arrest initially, didn't they? And what did he do? He tried to jump bail. And in fact, one of the people on Twitter who was writing like obituaries for him said that he was going to meet him at the border to get him out.
Oh,
You could have met him at the border at the moment the war hit, you fucking idiots. And so then he's a fat slob that also smokes a lot. So he got double pneumonia and maybe had other underlying health issues on top of that. And because the Ukrainian guards weren't forthright in looking after him, an enemy agent, why would they? It probably got worse, but he wasn't killed by them because he did eventually get some treatment, but obviously by then it may have been too late because of his age, because of his health conditions. He died.
yeah.
He's not the only 55-year-old to have died of pneumonia. I mean, it's not common, but it's not unheard of, especially someone of his condition.
I mean, let's be frank with ourselves.
They said he was tortured. Where's the evidence he was tortured? In the note, he didn't say he was tortured from what I could read. I'm bad at reading people's handwriting, but what are they on about?
Well, what they're on about is they're clout chasers. I mean, the guy literally, again.
Said he was tortured, by the way. Your boy Sticks.
Oh, we're gonna talk about him. I fucking hate Sticks. I hate the bird.
I don't hate him. I don't hate him, but he is irritating in his American. No offense, I know you're Americans, but in his Americanness. You guys are all right, though.
No, we're fine. I mean, I actually want to pull it up here because I was going to talk about him, but I don't like Lyra. I really don't like him because the one thing that we have that is so pertinent, that is so useful, is the fact that Gonzalo dragged his ass across the internet so many fucking times. There's so much shit on him that you can literally just follow the shit trail, the poo trail on the carpet, and you'll find out all that he was about. He's not some sort of hero or war correspondent.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really want to see a war correspondent, go look at Freedom Alternative. He's more of a war correspondent, but he's doing it outside of the war zone.
Ukraine, yeah.
Yeah, he has. He's even apparently held the AK-12 and whatnot, and it's a shitty little weapon.
I held an SA-80 at the age of 11.
I don't know what an SA-80 is. That the bullpup?
The British battle rifle. Yeah, the bullpup. Yeah, I can't stand it. At the time, it was great though. Like I'm holding a gun.
It's pretty awesome. I like it. But one of the other things,
believe it or not, at my local army medical center. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
They gave me a shirt that they guessed would fit me correctly when I was older, but I lost it. I don't know where it is.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Waffle Evil says Gonzalo was killed by fascist Banderites. Are you propaganda, dude? I honestly think Gonzalo was was just he was a mercenary. He was I really do think that it's not some sort of grand
Gonna switch, lad.
conspiracy. What's up?
I'm just going to switch to
Okay.
my computer.
No, it's all right. All right. But I
But
wanted to.
my Discord's been crap. I can't see the screen properly. I'll just turn my phone off and then.
Oh well, the
It's
screen is
easier.
the screen is being viewed from artistic layman's. He's the one projecting. If that makes any sense. Let me see if I.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Just that I can't get to my my thing, so I'll just restart my phone and join you on my
Okay.
computer. It won't take long.
All right. Let me pull up the video and get cued in. I really don't like I really don't necessarily like Styx, because Styx is one of those people who thinks that because he's mastered the dark arts, he mastered everything. And the truth be told is he doesn't have a teachable spirit. Like that really is the one sin that I keep seeing from a lot of intellectuals and academics, to the point where I don't even like academics. To the point where I won't even listen. It's not that I won't listen to them. It's I will come to them. They won't come to me. But oftentimes, because of the nature of society, and yes, society is the problem, because society needs credentials, and credentials, you have to have institutions to verify it and whatnot. But the thing that I don't like about Styx is that he oftentimes commits a sin of intellectual arrogance. So here we go, Luke. I send it to you, and it's in the chat for you, Mitch, also.
His ability to predict, right? He's pretty good at predicting American politics.
I don't think he is good at predicting American politics. I think that like his predictions at the end of the day are basically just tips. Like he gets tips. So like I think there was another guy who honestly
the preventable murder. Oh, what a fucking idiot! Oh my god, Styx. Razorfist was moaning about it as well. So I was literally just enjoying him playing Resident Evil 4. 15 minutes into the stream, somebody super chats him and says, is Jan 6 the extent that the government will take to keep power? Which, by the way, I'm sick of hearing about January the 6th as well, but that's another argument.
Oh, we could talk
and he
about
said,
that
well, just
as
look
well.
at this was the first time I'd heard that he died, because I'd fallen asleep dead early yesterday, so I didn't catch the news.
Right.
He said, oh, well, just look at Ukraine with the death of Gonzalo Lira. And I'm like, what?
The fuck you
First off, First off, I said he's dead. And then second, I said, how would killing Gonzalo Lira help keep Zelensky in power? And third, you do know they've been invaded for the past 10 years.
Yeah. Exactly.
Have some perspective, you fucking idiot.
God, I just love your posh accent. It's fucking perfect.
I'm not posh. This isn't posh, mate. This is regional northern Mancunian. This is not posh.
Oh, well, it's all the same. It's, again, to a
It's
dumb
not
American.
all the same.
It ain't. My apologies. But no, but I just like it. It's very, it adds character, let's say. But let's play this, Luke. Let's play this freaking Styx bullshit. His analysis, his avian, what's the whole thing? His augury, I guess the term.
The augurs.
The augurs, yeah.
Certainly in Scandinavia, have you seen those places even for high-level incarcerated individuals? It's like night and day. Up in Scandinavia,
Oh, yeah.
you get your own little suite.
They're doing so well with their crime statistics.
Yeah. Computer and all that shit. You've got a workout room, and yeah, you're up in the fucking Arctic Circle, but yeah, I mean, you've definitely got better food than you're going to get in a Ukrainian prison. Poor dude probably survived on nothing more than a couple of potatoes and some moldy cabbage on a daily basis for an extended period of time.
He does know that Ukraine is not this like poverty-stricken hellhole. It wasn't amazing, don't get me wrong, but it was doing a damn sight better than Russia was.
Well, yeah, I mean, honestly,
have you seen the recent footage that's come out of Russia?
With
the walls coming down, they have an egg shortage. Eggs are dead expensive. I know that sounds crazy, but it's a staple protein food.
I've seen. I think it was last week we talked about specifically, you know, the party that the New Year's Eve party or whatever it was, and how everyone was partying, and then they say the magic word of Shoigu, and they invoke that motherfucker, and they bring him in,
Shoigu.
and yeah, Shoigu,
Gerasimov.
Fucker.
Where's the eggs?
Where are the eggs exactly? The one thing I will say about the eggs thing is that my parents taught me, and they taught me because she was taught that if you ever raise your kids to like eggs, because no matter where you go in civilization, they always have eggs, but except in
Yes.
Russia, apparently.
I like eggs, but I lost my taste for scrambled.
I like scrambled, but at the same time, I see food as fuel, not an amusement park. So if it looks like a bunch
runny.
Oh, you like it?
So
runny,
you know,
huh?
like, yeah, the I forgot what the orange bit is called. I'm blanking.
Oh, the
The
yolk.
yolk.
Oh, that is, yeah, the yolk. Then yeah, okay, I was right in my head. I like it runny, and I also like it when you boil it, but you keep it nice and runny inside, so you can dip stuff in.
Oh, that now you're making me hungry, man.
I know. Well, I was making my dinner, so.
No, I got you. I got you. Keep playing it, Luke.
The United States government should have gotten him released. They should have pressed for that to happen. This
Why?
is a U.S. citizen who was charged under a law that would be considered unrecognizable under U.S. jurisdictions. A criticism of the U.S. government is
Oh.
not illegal.
America's not the
speaking out-
world.
It's not, and at the same time, this is war. I mean, we're only
Yeah.
hearing one side, and I'll just say it right now: I don't believe Gonzalo Lira is dead until I see a body. Until I
True.
see a body.
I actually have Have you heard of Lord Haw Haw, guys? Do you know your World War II history?
I saw a tweet about him. Could you tell us, elaborate a little bit more
Yeah,
about him?
so Lord Haw Haw, otherwise known as William Joyce, was an Irish-American, literally Irish-American citizen who he claimed to be British and he had a British passport, but he got it through illegal means. It was quite a minor crime how he did it, but his parents were British subjects. And he used to be a unionist in Northern Ireland. Then he was a fascist, like he was part of the BUF, then he got kicked out by Mosley, and then he ended up in Germany, became a German citizen, and became their propagandist. So he would make radio broadcasts to Britain, trying to demoralize us, and he would do it in a different way to Gonzalo. Like, you know, Gonzalo just did what Gonzalo did, but he would do it in a very leering, menacing way. If you've ever heard how he did it, and he would affect a fake accent.
Oh, really?
But but the thing is, he was captured after the war, but the Americans didn't ask to extradite him. Especially after it was found out in court that he was technically may not have been British, but he was still hung for treason, by the way. Gonzalo got off lightly.
Honestly, I think that
Can Ukrainian prisons really be that bad?
the Ukrainian prisons are the same as Turkish prisons, honestly, or
Probably, yeah. The Eastern European standard, yeah.
exactly. So, like, I mean, man up, Gonzalo. I mean, look at fucking what is his name? Abu the Muslim, Abu Andrew Tate, right?
Andrew Tate, yeah.
Yeah, he's in a Romanian prison, and that can't be that bad. I mean,
Wasn't he
difference.
released?
I think he was released on parole. Honestly,
Oh, right, I see. Yeah.
he's on parole, but he's still basically doing the whole Charles Manson experience, where he's basically fucking with people all the time, and at the same time, he's just a loudmouth. A lot of these guys are loudmouths, and if the government would kill him, eventually someone else would just pop him in the mouth and say, "Shut the hell up! You're being a fucking annoying. You don't know what you're talking about." I mean, there's so much stuff that Gonzalo said. Like, I think there was a clip that was out there. I think it's on my podcast in one of the older videos when Ukraine first got invaded, when the war became hotter, let's say. And you could see Gonzalo basically in, I think, Kharkiv or something like that. And he's like, "Oh, look, there's no one here. Oh, look." Like, he's an attention whore. Why does anyone take this guy seriously? And especially if you look at his fucking history. And I even have, I think, Kraut and T's a video which exposed the man. None of his credentials add up. None of them do. He didn't go and work.
I will
for
give him one thing. I'll give Gonzalo one thing. He did have a sense of humor, at least at the time when I made this meme. I managed to find it. It was a Twitter meme. It was never released on YouTube. I only released it on Twitter to wind him up. And he was known back in the day for having like insanely pretentious production standards. So he'd have like loads of different camera angles. Do you remember back in the day?
Oh yeah,
When he was a bit more, he used to actually care about his appearance back then. He seemed to lose like care and attention for that kind of thing. I don't know why. maybe that was part of the act, because he was a grifter after all. So there's always some kind of image that you have to project. And I just thought, why don't I do this, but turn it into the Friends intro with some insults in there? And he actually found it quite funny. So he said it was hilarious. So I'll give him that.
Well, let me just say this: of all the things that Gonzalo said, I can remember when he said he was actually going to sue Kraut and T.
I do remember that. He tried to say that Kraut doxed him. Now, Kraut doxed many people during that time, but Coach Red Pill doxed himself.
Exactly, and he did it in the most basic bitch way, which was having a LinkedIn profile. And yeah, even I have a LinkedIn profile, but you'll never know
it was on
about
his
me.
Patreon as well, by the way.
Oh, it was. I mean, I
yeah,
actually,
yeah.
But like Gonzalo Lira always, back when he was in his like a studio apartment or his flat or whatever, when he was doing all the camera angles, trying to look like he was professional, he always reminded me of Kevin Spacey. He really did, like the same
He does
level.
look like him.
He does, and that's why I say it's his Kevin Spacey arc, and then he tries to be more homey and whatnot, like oh I'm gonna build something with my hands, I'm gonna be a carpenter. I'm like, you're not. You literally are. If anything, I think he's a privileged gentleman for a Chilean standard. I mean, people talk about him.
Chileans have good living standards, thanks to General Pinochet.
Oh, absolutely. Well, yeah, but I mean, they're not American. They're not American. They're not Western per se, but they're better than most of Latin America, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So I think that a lot of this is just the privilege. Again, I don't want to just constantly bash Lira all the time, because I gotta give him some points. He did have some things that were interesting to say, but everyone else has already said it. It wasn't his own idea, So continue with the clip, Luke, and if you want to share that meme, you could share that meme if you want.
Notice the little plushie? Isn't that the character that you like?
Oh, the bird from Hell of a Boss.
Yeah.
The freaking bird. I don't know what it is with the goddamn birds. It's like every time we're encountering more and more birds with these Gnostics.
I wouldn't say that Styx is a Gnostic though. He's like where is he at the moment in his spiritual journey? Because he's been through quite a lot of. He's not an atheist. He's not a Satanist anymore. He's like a pagan, but I don't know what gods he believes in. I mean, I'm an atheist myself, so I don't really have a bone in this fight that you guys have, but I couldn't tell you what he is at the moment.
Well, I'm not going to bash atheism, but like I've often said, the biggest problem with atheism is the atheism, the plural. When you start getting a bunch of people together who are all united in a disbelief of something, that's the biggest. That's when trouble comes.
Aren't you guys lucky that the SJWs made sure that wasn't going to happen again anytime soon?
Well, it won't happen in under the banner of atheism, but it will be collectivism nonetheless, right? So whether it be anti-fascism,
Christopher Hitchens died. All that kind of atheism died as well, because then if you've heard of Atheism Plus,
yes,
that made them infight. But anyway, yeah, we should probably get on with it. I'll just quickly turn my air fryer back on. One sec, guys.
Right on. Take your time.
You just keep going without me. It'll be all right.
All right. Play it out, Luke.
Diplomatic efforts is not illegal. This is what the United States should do. In any case where a U.S. citizen is incarcerated in a foreign country, lobbying efforts should be made to get them freed if it would be outside of our own legal system. So you're, for example,
pause it.
You're charged.
What if you, like, I can't help but and when Mitch gets back, maybe he'll have an opinion on this, because I've actually been, with all the talk about the birds, I'm hanging out with the fucking Kiwis, of all things, right? Because that's where I think a lot of the information and a lot of the data that exists now that's where, like, the real information and gathering is happening with the fucking, the avian farms of, let's say, a New Zealand variety. I'm not going to say their actual name, but here's another picture of you can put that up there as well. But I think this is projection on Styx's part, because from what I understand, he fled with the bird from Hell of a Boss because of something that happened in the Netherlands. And apparently, I don't know he hasn't made an official statement on this, but apparently, I guess he left his wife and whatnot. And I have spoken to some of the people who know Styx, and yes, they have seen selfies with the person in question, but they haven't. I've offered to have her come on the show, and she has declined. So I'm going to respect her anonymity, and plus some of that data has not been shared with the Kiwis, so to speak. So I'm going to respect that, and even then, I don't know if I can't track the chain of custody if that person knew each other, if she's just a pissed off ex or what have you. But
Oh, what's this? What's this?
what's this? Well, from what I understand, I think there's a reason why Styx is advocating for the United States jurisprudence to come in and step in when someone's being held, because from
Why
what
is
I
it that they're
understand,
isolationists when it comes to Ukraine, but not when it comes to Gonzalo Lira's terrible criminal record?
well, it's because they don't benefit from it. And I've even said, from what I've heard, is that Styx actually is a kind of a mean drunk, honestly, and it kind of makes sense given his background. I mean, he said he's been to places like the psych ward, but I'm like, join the club. Every fucking millennial's been to the psych ward once or twice. Because if you treat people like defective girls, they're eventually going to, be diagnosed with something. Which again, a lot of even V Monroe, another Romanian YouTuber, has said that he doesn't trust the mental health system because they're trying to find something wrong with you, and eventually they want you to internalize the illness, so that way they can have a individual who's a patient for life. Essentially, you never grow. You always have this soft bigotry of low expectations about yourself, right?
Mm.
But what I can tell about Styx is that Styx has apparently he was abusive supposedly to his wife, and he fled the country because I guess he was trying to flee justice or something, and he was like drinking alcohol and partying with the fucking the bird from Hell of a Boss. I don't know if he was hallucinating or what the fuck it was,
I
but he
thought
left
he
the
moved
country.
to Holland with his wife. That's what I thought, right?
He did.
I'm
He
really
did.
confused.
He did, but apparently he left. He fled the country, and he's no longer married to his wife. Apparently, but we don't know enough
Oh, right.
about it. But like a lot of these grifters, a lot of these activists, and again, I hate activists. I really do hate activists, especially if they don't run for anything, if they don't have an end goal in politics. They're just making a big fucking deal. But keep playing it, Luke. I wanted to play it out.
Charged with having a little bit of pot in Singapore. You could get the death penalty for that, and it's dumb to do. You shouldn't do it. It's on you that you were an idiot, but at the same time, the United
this
States
isn't
government
on
should
him.
at least make some sort of attempt to get
Go on.
the individual free. To say, look, in
hang
our
on.
country, it's not a big thing.
Go on. Let him talk. Let him talk. Let him talk.
So, you go to Singapore, you commit drug offences or anything like that. Whether it is that was it drug offences that's the death that's the death penalty, right? Did
Right.
he say? Am I right, Luke?
Play it back a bit, Luke. I want to hear it.
It's
Fine,
on
Luke.
you that you
Sorry, I
abuse
just
the
like the way you
system.
say Luke.
So if you're, for example, you're charged with having a little bit of pot in Singapore, you could get the death penalty for that, and it's dumb to do. You shouldn't do it. It's on you that you were an idiot, but at the same time,
alright.
the United States
Oh,
government should
sure,
at least
yeah.
make
So
some sort.
that's on you. You should be punished. Although he did say that the American government should intervene somewhat, but that's on you. But apparently Gonzalo Lira has done nothing wrong. He's been murdered.
He's been murdered. Honestly, I think he was neglected at best. If we're really going to say it,
Probably, yeah.
He's neglected. I'm like, why should we give you a extra blanket for the cold, when in reality, if we were to, let's say, give you access to, let's say, cold or heating and food, you're going to get what you get, and you're at wartime. Okay, I'd rather feed, let's say, some Ukrainian family and give them an extra blanket than give somebody who quite literally is a
deserves more.
the thief. Yeah, exactly, because the thief is what we know. Like, we know that he's a thief. We know that what he is, and we know what he isn't. But what I was going to get across here,
drunk, the village drunk deserves more. At least he's Ukrainian.
at least exactly, and we can know where he's been. Gonzalo, he's literally been a globetrotter. Like, you want to talk about globalists and internationalists? He's quite literally that person. He's been almost everywhere. He was in Chile. He was in America, which again, American citizen. That, like, everyone keeps saying American citizen. I'm like, well, Steven Crowder is an American citizen. Lauren Chen, Lauren Southern, they're American citizens. Were they born
Isn't
here?
Lauren Chen Canadian?
She's a Canadian, yes, but she's an American citizen. And
Oh, right, I see. Right.
Yeah, because she apparently had, I guess, a kid with her producer slash husband. There's a lot of stuff that honestly is just the way you look at it. It just doesn't feel right, so I don't support it. So, like, the word anchor baby comes to mind when I think of Lauren Chen. That's just me,
By
but
the way, speaking of passports, I now have my passport, so I can go abroad and visit anybody I want if I've got the money.
that's badass. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking, Mitch?
Because I'm 30 actually, but because of like financial reasons, you know, we never went abroad when I was a kid. So by the time I was a teenager and a young adult, I didn't have the money to go abroad, and I've had a few applications, but because of like laziness or something, I've never managed to get through to them. But eventually, this one I did, although it was a rough ride because you discover a few things about the system. So I'm sure they didn't mention it, or maybe I missed it. But it turns out depending on when you were born, if you're born out of wedlock before the year 2006, you require more evidence for your parents, basically.
Oh, that
Which I
actually
didn't know.
I could definitely see why that would be. I mean, one of the people
It goes
who
through the mother's side, yeah. Not so much after 2006, but when I was born, citizenship was based on your mother's birth, yeah.
that kind of makes sense, because then you have like people who would be, you know, I guess the term would be sex tourism or whatever the hell it might
Yeah.
be.
Just would have been nice to know.
No, I got you. And one of the people who I follow, and I think I could send you his link. His name's Fishy River, 8192, I believe. Let's see if I
Yeah,
can link
and
it.
they
link it.
wanted evidence of my dad's name change because when he was a kid, his dad changed the family name to what it now is, Mitchell. That's why I'm called Mitch. But originally it was Mohammed.
Ah,
But don't worry, we're not actually blood related, so. And he was mixed race as well. It's all really confusing, my family history. But he changed it because he probably wanted to get away from his old family, his dad's side, that is, because he was basically disowned.
I see.
And
Well,
also probably to get a job as well. It's probably easy to get a job with an English name. So. Yeah,
Well,
there you
yeah,
go.
you want to integrate. You wanted to actually set roots, I'd
Well, he was
imagine.
born here. He was born and raised here, but because he was, brown, it was a bit harder for him.
No.
Although my auntie never changed her surname until she got married, as far as I know. So.
Well, it's not just. I guess it's not just setting roots, but showing loyalty, showing integration, if that makes any sense.
Possibly. He was a bit weird though. Oh, he was very racist as well, by the way, towards people from. I think it was. Well, where his dad came from is now modern day Pakistan, so I guess you would say Pakistanis, but we just say Indian because, well, it was India back then. So.
No, I got you. I got you.
My granddad was born. He's still my granddad, even if we're not related. So. He was born in 1940, so this is before the big waves of like immigration. You know, the whole Windrush thing. I don't know if you've heard of that from Britain.
I don't.
Look it up. It's become a part of the whole DEI thing.
Oh, okay.
You know? Yeah.
I'll definitely take a look into that Windrush. So
It
continue
was a
playing
ship.
it.
Yes, continue. I'm taking you guys off topic as I want to do.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Attempt to get the individual freed and say, look, in our country, it's not a big thing. We've always had good relations. We trade a lot together. We're friends. We would appreciate it if you'd just send them back here and just deport them and prevent them from ever being able to re-enter the country. We should be pressing for that. I mean, think of what the United States does for all these other countries. We pump them full of money. We give them shit tons of weapons. We prop up entire economies. I would think that maybe other countries at the bare minimum can return the favor by enacting such a policy. Hey, if a U.S. citizen does dumb shit, it's because it's a dumb American, and so we're not going to look the other way, but we'll find them and we'll deport them and we'll restrict them from ever entering the country again. Or, there's a 20-year period they can't re-enter or something like that. Gonzalo Lira, fundamentally, was only exercising his right to free expression. Now, some people point out, well, he was basically spreading Russian propaganda.
No, that doesn't count in a war zone, mate. It doesn't count during the time of war. Even in America in World War II, the right to freedom of speech was not granted to everybody. I mean, whole communities of Japanese people were interned, for God's sake. Did they have a right to free speech?
What about the
No.
Germans? The Germans also got fucked with constantly because, again, when you're at war with a country...
We didn't intern the whole community of Germans like the Americans did, but we did put them in the prison. Yeah. If they were seen to be suspicious, yeah, we would put them in prisons, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It makes sense. And the problem, and I think a lot of this is that we keep trying to act like this isn't a war. Like even when this whole thing started back in 2014, or not even when it started, because it did start in 2014, but in reality, a lot of people, like myself included, got involved around, I want to say, when probably a couple of years. I got involved back in 2016, if anything. And even then, I wouldn't say involved. Like, I became aware of what was going on in 2016. Thank you,
I was aware of
Lucien.
everything since the Maiden Revolution, but to my eternal shame, I was a little bit. I wasn't a Vatnik, but I was definitely anti-NATO because I used to be left wing and against intervention and stuff like that. And then when I moved to the right, that anti-interventionism didn't change. Well, okay. I mean, it depended on the situation. I wouldn't have minded a war if it was justified. You know, like to prevent a genocide or something, right? You know, something
Yeah.
that's obviously morally righteous. Like the first Gulf War was justified because Kuwait did nothing wrong. They got invaded by Saddam. I did see actually a comment where somebody was saying that 1990 was used as some kind of justification for something else. And I'm like, mate, it's not the same as 2003, but whatever. But when the war hit, and thankfully, as the war hit, I discovered what Duginism was. I discovered how bad Russia was. I mean, I knew Russia was pretty shit, but I didn't think it was as bad as I later would find out, thanks to Lucien.
Yeah, Lucien.
So
Lucien
when
is
the
a
war
godsend.
hit, when the war hit, I was still a bit, oh, well, you know, NATO's expanding, but then speaking to actual Eastern Europeans and Ukrainians in the Discord server and on Telegram quickly educated me. Like, you don't even need to speak to a Ukrainian to understand the situation on the ground over there.
I've often said that this is a boomer war, because if you really think about it, the Soviet Empire fell apart, the infrastructure fell apart, but the people are still around. They're still, like I keep saying, it's a Soviet boomer. It's a boomer war. All the people from the 1980s and 1990s and whatnot who are now like getting into geriatric, they know each other. And they know that, just because the Supreme Soviet, it's not Khrushchev, who was it? Gorbachev threw in the towel. Yeah, Gorbachev threw in the towel. That doesn't change the fact that you have a whole bunch of, Soviet patriots who basically want to reinvigorate Russia. Like, that's how I see it. This is a boomer war. This is the war of, the
Putin
Russians.
was 41 when it collapsed. And he was the mayor of St. Petersburg, because he was on the rise in the system as it collapsed.
Exactly. So you think about that and you realize, wow, we are actually fighting geriatric Soviets who are still, and again, I don't want to get too deep into like mysticism and like magical thinking, but you have to ask yourself the question: if you've been trained in that type of mindset of the Soviet mindset, not just from like the lower echelon rankings of like the actual worker or the common citizen, but like actually administrative privileges in that system, what would that do to a person's mindset and their view of themselves in the world, right? We see people from like defectors from, let's say, North Korea or whatnot, and we see how some of them are like, I never knew what it was like to be loved. I sold my body to get out of the country, like Yalmi Park, what have you. But we never ever hear from the actual people, except for like a handful of like defectors like Yuri Bezmenov, who were in on the joke. So so for all the like emotional abuse and trauma that some of these citizens under communism went through, we never get to hear from the the people who actually were living high and mighty under de facto slave labor. So, like, I actually think it's a mental health crisis of anything, right? When it comes to what we're dealing with, because some of these people are so fucking entitled and think that the revitalization of Russia is a good thing, because then I get to have my old job back, so to speak. Wolfram Pepper says
that's always been a thing with Russians. They've always been entitled to some world power status, and also they think that ethnically they should be dominant over the people around them. They should Russify all the people that they subjugate, or even just near, But they've always been like this.
Well, I mean, if you really want to,
but it's a uniquely Muscovite thing. If you want to be even more pedantic, because the Republic of Novgorod was nothing like what modern Russia is.
Could
You
you
know.
could you tell us a little bit more about Novgorod, if you know
Well,
anything about that?
Novgorod was like one of the many different Russian city states because Russia wasn't always united, and it was like a republic. It was like a trading hub. It was thriving. I don't think it was a democracy or anything like that. I think it was more like an Italian republic, at least as far as a Russian republic could go. And then the Mongols pretty much broke its power, and then the Muscovites eventually broke the Mongols, and then they took Novgorod.
Right.
And Novgorod is still around, by the way. But it's a shadow of its former self. It's just a city now in some oblast, some
Uh,
Blyat oblast, you know.
we'll
Which,
continue
by the
this.
way, is a really Blyat oblast is a very good Telegram channel.
I
Follow it.
will I will definitely follow it because I honestly when again I'm hesitant to like install foreign applications. Like I don't like TikTok. I will not have TikTok. I won't even
Telegram's
source.
all right, even if it is Russian. But the guy who owns it is like a libertarian. He's not a Putinist,
Well, that's good to hear because again
as far as I know. Yeah.
well, here's the thing. Like a lot of like I actually helped one of the I think it's her I'm not gonna say her name, but I helped a few of these thoughts, so to speak. I adopted a thought to get her out of fucking Russia, and she's in Portugal. She's doing very well for herself. I
That's
think
good.
she's doing very well. And again, like of all the like for all the talk about migrant crisis and stuff like that, there's actually a justification to get some of these Russian citizens out of Eastern Europe because they're going to be fucked with. They're going to be they're going to be pushed and
Well,
radicalized.
they just need to get out of Russia. But the problem is, you're well aware of this. A lot of the Russians who left Russia to escape mobilization, they're just being Russian in public. In all these foreign countries that they've been able to go to, so in Kazakhstan and Georgia, they've been very badly behaved. Not saying that this girl is, but a lot of them are
Well,
just being Russians on tour. You know.
She's actually learning English and Portuguese. She's actually trying
That's
to
good.
integrate, which is good.
That's good.
I mean,
Did you change her?
I didn't change her. If anything, I did. If anything, I just gave her a little bit of a head start for cash because she needed cash because everything was frozen. And at the same time, she did get contacted by I'll just have to explain my rationale for why I want to adopt her. Was adopt the thought because she's a sex worker. Well, she's basically selling nudes and shit. And when you cut off all the economic not the restrictions, but you cut off all of the porn and all the sex workers and all the banking. You basically have a woman who, for all extensive purposes, has been out of the workforce, doesn't have any skills. That in itself is a opportunity for intel agencies, whether it be the FSB, the CIA, whomever, or even pimps could pimp these women out, and it could become a human rights issue, if that makes any sense. To the point where she was actually messaged by, I think it was Andrew Tate's brother, trying to get her. Yeah, she actually had it, and she showed it in her Russian or her Telegram channel. And again, I adopted her because I knew that a lot of these women are never going to change being what they are, especially under the threat of force, except until they have no choice, right? But I knew that she would have a lot of pretty boys that she would call friends, and some of those friends are living fast and dying young because they're in the Ukraine or they're in Ukraine and they're in Russia, and some of them are Russians and some of them are whatnot. And I figured, well, if I just listen to who you talk to, I could probably get an idea of what's going on through a purely open source intel sort of idea, if that makes, or notion about. She'll. It's sort of like how in Vietnam, how a lot of the North Vietnamese would have pimps and whores basically act as, information agents. Same concept. Yeah, she got out, and a lot of the Russians who got out, some of them are trying to integrate, but because of the nature of what she was doing, she had to basically have a long look in the mirror and say, well, can I do this forever? And if I can do this forever, what do I need? You need to have banking. You need to have free markets. You need to have the ability to sell yourself or your goods in that regard. And she sells pictures, so that's basically what she does. But yeah, continue with the video, Luke. I want to finish this one up real quick.
States, if you put Russian disinformation on the internet or something like that, maybe you get banned by YouTube or you get banned by Zuckerberg or something like that. You don't get put in prison to eat the stale potatoes and then probably die of botulism or something like that. Have you seen Ukrainian MREs, for example? Yeah, consider that to be the highest quality processed food that you can probably obtain because of the beefy military budget. We're giving Ukraine billions and billions of dollars, and yet you just killed one of our citizens, and it is effectively murder.
They didn't kill him. He died of an
claim it.
illness that he was probably going to die of anyway. But you
Yeah.
have no evidence he was killed by them, or murdered, or tortured.
Ugh.
You're all just saying that.
I don't. Again, for all intents and purposes, I know more about Gonzalo Lira because I've actually, I even called him out on his bluff and said, "Are you going to sue Crown T already?" He's like, "Oh well, I'm totally going to go after him." I'm like, "No, you're not. You're talking shit." But I will say this, Crown T, you're off the hook. You're not going to get sued by this guy anymore. Hopefully, assuming that he actually is dead. Keep going, Luke.
Is that they were negligent and actually torturing him. And I believe it. And so too would the legacy media.
I believe it. I have no evidence, but I believe it. Listen and believe me. I'm right wing.
Well, I think no, it's not just that. It's the thing that pisses me off about this guy is he doesn't run for office. He's very well spoken. He's not going to run for office because I think from what I've heard from certain people that he's hung out with, he's kind of a squirrely weirdo, and you could kind of tell that just by the way. Look, yeah, just look at him. Right?
He looks like a squirrel.
He looks like a mole rat. He looks like the mole rat from fucking Kim Possible. That's what he looks like. Luke,
I was thinking the mole rats from Gothic.
Oh, the mole. What is it? The fucking mole rat Kim Possible. You can put this out here, Luke. There we go. Rufus, the little fucking mole rat. Here we go.
I remember that guy.
Yeah, you can put this up just to get same eyes and everything, same whiskers too. It literally is him, Mom. It's Mom.
It really
it's
is.
him. But I think there's a lot of stuff that's going on, and I think what we're going to see in the 2020. Yeah, there we go. The mole rat. We have a bunch of animals. It's like fucking Animal Farm now. We have the birds and we have the bees and we have the mole rats. There he is.
Nick's mole rat hammer, or whatever.
The fucking teeth and everything. Jeez Louise. I mean, between which, by the way, I actually did some art for him because I like to fuck with him just because one of the things I will say that I like about Styx is he doesn't block people like Razor Fist. I don't like Razor Fist because he claims to be, oh, I'm pro free speech, I'm libertarian. He blocks a lot of people and Styx for all the sense of purposes.
Blocking isn't like a free speech thing, but like, I understand what you mean. He hides from people. Yeah. He
hides from people, and the one thing I will say is Styx, he'll let me fucking message him and say stupid shit and fuck with him. But one thing I will say is almost all of the art that I made of him, I just had to make Rule 63 Gretchen Gruntler, and it works. It works. I don't know what it is, but keep going, Luke.
I'll be right back, guys.
All right.
Ukraine's justice system was considered ultimately corrupt. Its government was considered corrupt, bribery and embezzlement and all sorts of intrigue. Its military was considered corrupt. Everything about Ukraine was considered to be corrupt until the moment the Russians invaded them. As soon as the Russians invaded, all of those headlines disappeared. Zelensky was basically upheld as being the next Virgin Mary, and anyone critical of the regime gets put in a gulag. You've got the Ukrainians messing around with religion. Certainly the things that the Ukrainian government are doing, regardless of your feelings on the war itself. I believe in the Ukrainian people's right to defend their own territory, their own turf. That's fine. But the policies that have been enacted pertinent to that war effort would be considered egregious and absolutely against all human and civil rights in the United States. They'd be unconstitutional. Gonzalo Lira was a fool to go to Ukraine and start criticizing Zelensky's regime. He knew what he was getting himself into. He also, by the way, attempted to flee unsuccessfully. I'm sure that he regrets having made that video. He probably could have slipped through if he had tried. And like in the dead of night, you have to take a quick run over this mountain into a neighboring country. He probably could have pulled it off if he had been a little bit more subtle about it.
He clearly couldn't.
But that doesn't mean that he deserved...
Why didn't he just stay at home? He was under house arrest. That's the most ideal thing that he could have had. They treated him really well.
They did.
Compared to what they could have done.
Exactly. And the thing that pisses me off, and this is where I really, really want to get Styx on as well. I mean, that's like in the maybe file. It'll probably never happen, especially given the fact how much I fuck with Styx. But you'd think that Styx would understand the power of freedom of religion. Because here's the thing: the Russians. I hate to be the guy who says this, even as a Christian, and they've weaponized the Orthodox Church in Russia to the point where you could very well smuggle weapons and smuggle information and smuggle people in and out of places just by saying, "Oh, we're humanitarian, we're Christian, we're trying to spread the Lord, the good word of the Lord." You'd think that someone like him would understand why there are restrictions on the Orthodox Church in Ukraine, right? Because the Moscovites are actually using the religious freedoms, and they're abusing it. It's no different than somebody trying to hide a terrorist in a mosque or something along those lines. You'd think that somebody of like Styx would understand this, but he doesn't get it. He just does not understand it, and I think a lot of it is he's an American and he hasn't traveled the world enough. Like I can remember the first time I realized how good I had it when I went to Tijuana when I was a fucking.
I mean, he lived in Europe. He must know that technically Russia's closer to America than my country, but they can get here. If they can get to Britain either by plane or by boat, they can get to the Netherlands no problem. He should have realised the threat that they pose. Because they don't just have to send a plane to test our early warning defences or to test our navy and how fast they can scramble. They can assassinate anybody on the continent. They've done this in Britain.
Oh, they killed Sergei
Litvinenko. They killed Litvinenko and they killed probably that other person you mentioned, because there was another case called the Salisbury poisonings.
Yeah,
I think that was after Litvinenko, though. Yeah,
they used Novichok poisoning, right? They used that like radioactive shit, right?
Yeah, that's what got Litvinenko as well. Yeah, he was a defector as well. I think he defected after Putin became president, though. And
then they have like Comrade J. Comrade J, I think his name is Sergei. What the hell's his name? Sergei Skripal? Not Sergei Skripal. It wasn't Sergei Skripal. It was Sergei. That's not Sergei. I can't. Comrade
Skripal,
J.
That's what Waffle Evil says.
Yeah, Sergei
Skripal.
Yeah, with Novichok poisoning, exactly. And I'm going to read some of the chat here. So,
have they ever killed anyone in America? Out of interest, has there been like poisonings there?
No, I don't think so. But I will say this: honestly, I'm very glad that I'm still single, because a lot of these Americans, especially the right wing activists, and I keep saying the activists here because a lot of these guys aren't running for office, and they really are. There is an issue because none of them are running for office. And if they ran for office, there would actually be like background checks by the CIA, FBI, and the letter alphabet agencies finding out if they're actually issues, if they're clean or not. But a lot of these guys can get away with it because we're activists. I mean, what was it?
Most of them are single as well, mate.
Yeah, and so a lot of these well, I was mostly thinking of this one guy who was like apparently dating a supposed Dubai escort, whatever her name was. I can't remember. Let me see if I can find his actual name, because I know that I don't. Jackson Hinkle. This guy, Jackson Hinkle.
Name rings. Wait, is that the communist Jackson Hinkle?
It's
the MAGA communist guy.
The MAGA communist guy. He was apparently dating this.
No, he was dating a Russian woman. Yeah, who was his handler, and she dumped him.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And here's the thing that gets me. It's like, did any of them actually know anything about spies? The oldest trick in the book is to get some chick who's really loose to basically get you to talk, right?
Yeah.
And
you become an asset whether you know it or not.
Exactly. That guy right
Jeremy
there.
Corbyn was a Russian asset in the 80s. Whether he knew it or not, although they probably could have got him to be an asset anyway, he would have happily done it, because there was never an enemy of Britain he never liked. You know?
I got you on that. But like the one thing I will say about the first thing that comes to mind when it comes to Russian assets in the United States was Anna Chapman. Do you know who the Anna Chapman was? Anna Chapman. Let's see if I can pull up a picture of her. Keep playing it, Luke, by the way. Anna
Chapman. I've spoken with Coach Red Pill on several different occasions by DM. I think I had a video chat with him once years ago as well. And while I don't agree with all of his views, I don't think that he should be murdered for those views. Like, for instance,
he wasn't murdered.
He wasn't murdered, Sticks. He was left to rot at best.
Death, of course. That doesn't mean that Russia good, Putin man.
But
good,
even by his own,
but he has the right to
even by his own notes admission, they did actually take steps to put him in hospital.
Yeah, And again, like if you ever listen to any of Coach Red Pill's shit, he's like the most histrionic person you could ever encounter. He's very histrionic the way he conducts himself. Like everything is either it's a mountain or a molehill. No pun intended to sticks. But Anna Chapman, here's one for you, Luke. I sent it to you in the chat. This was one of the original illegal. I'll just read the top of it. Anna Chapman, born. I'm not going to even pronounce that. Was a Russian intelligence agent, media personality, and model who was arrested in the United States in June 2010 as part of an illegal spies program ring. She was a fucking model. Anna Chapman. It's in the chat, by the way. Anna Chapman. She was one of the first supposed Russian spies. Well, she actually was a Russian spy.
Why is it in Cyrillic?
I don't know why it's in Cyrillic.
Oh, Volgograd. She was born in Stalingrad, mate.
Oh, okay. I don't know what the significance of that would be, but besides Stalingrad being Stalingrad.
She was British. Oh, I bet she lived in London with all the Russian million and billionaires.
Yep. Chapman pleaded guilty to charges of conspiracy to act as an agent of a foreign government. She and the other Russians were deported to Russia in July of 2010 as part of the 2010 Russia-U.S. prison swap. So again, this idea that the Russians are our friends, why are they illegally spying on us? Mm-hmm. Right?
Also, one should ask, because this is something that Sticks should ask, why the fuck did Edward Snowden go to Russia and China for asylum? Maybe he was actually a traitor.
Honestly, the older I get, like as a kid, like as somebody, I'd say a kid, but I was like in my early 20s. I'm in 30s now, so I'm right there with you, man.
We're born the same year, aren't we?
1990.
Oh, I was born 93, so I didn't know you were much older than me.
I am much older, and don't let the voice fool you. I have a very squeaky voice.
Same.
I mean,
squeaky bros.
squeaky bros for the win. I mean, V Monroe is my power animal.
My name is V. Guys, I'm a Romanian. I'm not a gypsy.
When I first heard him before he showed his face and before I found out he was Romanian, I thought he was freaking Spanish. Just the way he,
guys, I knew he was Eastern European. You can tell.
I can't tell. You're talking to a guy who thinks that Greek sounds like Spanish. And this
although, to be fair, when he speaks Romanian, it's totally different. It's anti-Semitismos, racismos.
I love that word, racismos and sexismos.
Racismos.
And capitalismos.
Anti-Russian mosismos.
But yeah, like we can't really trust it. Like it's getting to the point where I'm slowly becoming more and more pro-establishment as opposed to, anti-establishment. Like I think there was the old saying: if you're a liberal in your 20s, you don't have a heart. If you're a liberal in your 30s, you don't have a brain.
I've never really agreed with that, but I think if you don't have a brain, you don't have a brain. But I know what you mean.
No, yeah, exactly. Like one of the things that I started noticing, and this is when I thank God for Lucian, because Lucian actually explained it very well, is I started noticing a lot of these people were just sucking the dick of Putin practically. They were just literally just like, oh, he's the greatest thing in the world. I'm like, have you ever been to Russia? No. Have you been outside of the country? No. I've been outside of the country, but even then, Tijuana doesn't count. I can remember when I first left the United States, just looking back at the border and then looking in front of me to where we were driving. I'm like, so everyone I know who speaks the same language as me and basically believes in the same stuff I believe is behind me. And everyone in front of me doesn't speak the same language, and we don't know. We don't know anything about it. And the way I describe it was like being thrown outside of your house and into a blizzard. Simply put, because the world was dark, and it was like jumping out of outside. It was like going into a blizzard. I didn't know what the world was like, and I wanted to go back to the States as soon as humanly possible, because it was the norm. And no one spoke my language. They still took dollars, but I mean that doesn't really prove anything, right? No. And that was my first experience of the real world, or the world, a larger world, if that makes any sense. But
the thing is,
go on.
I would still be against all the spying, and the violation of which amendment was it? The 5th? I can't remember.
I think it's the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth
Fourth
Amendment.
Amendment, yeah.
Yeah, I'm against it too. But the
But I
question,
feel like that was a smokescreen for Edward Snowden's real intentions, which was to smuggle secrets.
I think I don't know. I mean, this is sort of like a chicken and the egg sort of argument. Like, did he smuggle secrets knowing that he had to have something to barter with? Like he had to be did he do it specifically with the intent, knowing that they would just deport him because they didn't really.
Even Razorfist thinks he's a traitor, by the way.
I think he's a traitor. But at the same time, I'm trying to look at this from a logistical perspective, because why should Xi Jinping say no to the United States? What is Edward Snowden to Xi Jinping or to the Chinese or to the Russians? He has to have something to offer them, because otherwise they say, oh good luck, I'm not going to dirty my hands with you. There's no reason for me to actually help you. So he had to have something to give to the Russians, right? Something to barter or offer, so that way they can get protection. So the question then becomes: Did he intend to defect because he hated America, or was he a traitor out of convenience or out of necessity? Right.
That's both.
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I mean, things are kind of they just are. I don't know. It just goes with the territory, so to speak. Keep playing it, Luke.
Have those opinions, and in a Western or a civilized country, it would be understood that he did. Why was there no effort by the Biden administration to try to extract him? Or at the very least, make sure he didn't die in prison. Say, hey, look, we looked into this prison, and we think you're torturing him. Can you please knock that off? All right, keep him in prison, but at least basic standards of human dignity
evidence is he's being tortured.
They probably gave him water torture.
I know.
Probably had to share
just
his
listen and
cell with
believe.
or some former KGB agent with a number
Rogue.
of scars on his face. Not necessarily the most pleasant way to go. So Gonzalo Lira is dead. It was preventable, but no effort was made to actually prevent that from happening. No logistical effort was made by U.S. or Western authorities in any way to lean on the Ukrainians and say, look, you're basically imprisoning someone for conducting journalism. It doesn't matter if it's Russian journalism or whatever the case may be. We're just return him here, or at the very least make sure he doesn't fucking choke to death on a potato.
What does it matter if it's journalism? Journalism is the cover story. Journalism is a cover story. Like, say what you will about Russian models. I personally think they're very beautiful and attractive. I think a lot of these Eastern European women are attractive, but at the same time,
some of them are.
Some of them are. Some of them are. I mean, I personally like a lot of some of these British chicks. Also, some of them are okay.
That's
but even
a controversial take.
It is a controversial. I'm thinking like Louise Cliff or fucking Anna Tanaka, people who are actually like in lad bags, if that makes any sense. So they're the cream of the crop, if that makes any sense. And a lot of these women are the cream of the crop. But at the same time, let's not kid ourselves. Actors, models, journalists. Even the church clergymen, they all have a reason to go to different countries, so they could all be under the same a cover story. Oh, I'm just here to be a journalist. I'm here to see the like I think what was it? Che Guevara, right? Wasn't he like a supposed journalist as well? That was like his. He
was a doctor. He was a doctor, and then went to join the commies in Cuba. Then became a fighter in like the first battle or something. Also, can I just respond to the chat? Wolfwind, you're attacking my credibility by calling your sacred cow a traitor. Yes, he did expose that the Fourth Amendment was being violated. Yes, that was wrong of the government to do so. But why would he be granted asylum in Russia if he didn't have something to offer? Don't be naive. Come on. And as Waffle Lever says, he was a double agent. And he did betray America ultimately. Why else would he go to an enemy country? Although technically at that point in time they were still trying to appease Russia, but make no mistake, Russia has not stopped being America's enemy since the Cold War ended.
Exactly. I mean, Sergei Tretyakov, that's the motherfucker's name. Tretyakov. A lot of coughs, a lot of ists and isms and a lot of coughs, but Tretyakov said that Russia still sees America as the main enemy. The main enemy. The term in Russia, I can't remember what the exact term was, but they still see America as the main enemy. Not as we see you as a potential enemy, like let's say China or North Korea, but we still see you as you are the main enemy. We are still going to go after you. Wolf wants to come on. I would, but I would let you come on, but I might let you come on next week. And I might actually, at some point, if you want, Wolf, I could let you talk to Mitch. If Mitch is okay with it, but I want to get like everyone to like. I might actually host a debate at some point and let
To
you
be
guys.
fair, the whole Snowden thing is like off topic. It was just a point we were making.
Yeah, the Snowden thing would. Yeah, that's basically it is off topic and it is bigger. There are multiple angles that can be said about that specifically. Like I honestly don't like a lot of the easy ways to get around this like spying thing, the Fourth Amendment crap, is simply to not use the technology that they're using, right? Like yeah, you can have a phone, but how many people actually buy the drug dealer phones, the ones with the removable batteries? How many people would rather just have an iPhone because cool features and whatnot? Waffle Eagle says the only thing that Mitch is lying about him.
Romanian lies. Romanian lies.
Well, is Waffle Eagle Romanian? Is
Yeah.
he? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I never knew that. I often try to just see people as their username, and that's about it. But Wolf, we'll let you be on at another time, but because I don't want to have a repeat of having Brother John and then having what was his name, John Steele on, because I'll let you be on at a different time, and if Mitch wants to like debate with you at some point, I'll let you. I'll get a time get squared away so you guys can
I mean,
like, talk.
it's not my area of expertise, the whole Snowden thing. I mean, how old was I? 15 at the time?
I was
something like that.
Let's see. I don't even recall what date Snowden left the United States. But I know,
It's not something that I think about every day, unlike the Roman Empire, you know?
yeah, no, I'm right there with you in the Roman Empire. But finish it up, Luke, because I want to continue with other things that we're going to talk about.
Botulism from a can of liver or something like that, because it's probably the way that he went. Or maybe maybe his wounds got infected from all the beatings that he sustained. So again, not necessarily pleasant. But don't expect the Western governments to talk about it, because of course that would be verboten, because Zelensky is just their all-star. Well, actually, Netanyahu is currently now here in the United States, but the European countries, they still uphold Zelensky as a fucking saint. That's about all.
Nobody thinks he's a saint.
So.
I actually like Netanyahu. I like him a lot. I like him because he's a guy who actually served. He actually fought in for his country. So there's something to be said about someone who's willing to spill blood for a cause, right? Regardless of whether you think the cause is good or bad, it's still a cause, and you're still spilling blood. So there is something to be said about that.
And to be fair, Zelensky's done well for a clown.
Well, he's an actor, right? Like people, one of the things he's a comedian and act. Well, I thought he was an actor, but he's I guess he's like a comedian, yeah. And he's doing well. And one of the things that I've often said is that don't compare him to Churchill. Churchill was a veteran of World War One. Churchill is Churchill.
He wasn't. No, he wasn't a veteran of World War One. He was a Boer War veteran. Although he did serve a little bit in World War One for a couple of months after he got sacked or left the cabinet, but it was only for a few months.
Right. But again, they're people of their time. You know, don't compare these people to that. But I wanted to pull up it was not an article, but there was a mentions that I had of the type of shit that Styx does. Because Styx is actually somebody who we kind of need him on our side, but at the same time, the shit that he does is stupid. Like he was saying, someone send me a link about this particular issue. And I'm thinking to myself, when you send a link to somebody, when someone sends you a link or a lead, you don't actually know if that person is trying to lead you astray or not. And that's one of the problems with a lot of these activists like Tim Pool and whatnot, is you don't know where that information comes from. If it's like bent towards, let's say, the Moscovites, or if it's bent towards the West, or if it's pro-Russia, pro-China, pro-what have you. So, like, a lot of these guys don't actually do the groundwork. They're the type of people who will just like, I have hundreds of fans, therefore I'm important, right? Or not even hundreds. I have hundreds of fans.
I think they just refuse to do it. They just see a source that appeals to their bias and run with it. That's all. Oh, it's anti-Western. It's anti-establishment. All right. Let's use this. It doesn't matter that actually, in the long term, it actually will ruin them.
Yeah.
But whatever, they don't care.
Well, the funny thing is, I've said before that I think I'm going to basically become the next Tim Pool or the next, or what have you, because I kind of feel like Jon Snow in a lot of these people are just fighting it out. But the truth is, I'm trying to stop the actual people who are hurting the country. I mean, fucking Dugan wrote a whole fanfic about why we have to subvert and undermine the United States. He wrote a whole fanfic, and that fanfic is being used by the Russian government as mandatory reading. So, you have to say, okay, well, this guy actually had some weight to his shit posting. His shit posting is actually
and he was kind of right in what he wrote as well, in how to harm the West and America in particular.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I've become really weird bedfellows with people who are leftists and people who are on the right and people who are racist, even for that matter. And I've said to them, they're going to use you, right? For all the talk of him saying, "Oh, Russia is so wonderful, wonderful. America's evil. America's evil. America's the great Satan." I'm like, dude, we have photos and videos of you being an occultist, right? And so you're going to say you're a Christian now? Why? Because you have the state backing you? Get the hell out of here. And there's actual reasons to call this guy a fucking weirdo. And the reason I call him a weirdo is simply because if you I keep saying what people tell me don't focus on Dugan, he's not really important. Well, he kind of is he is important. He is important in this for the simple fact that he wrote the whole plan for why Russia should go to the Ukraine. Why? Because it needs to be able to have that territory so it can protect itself from Western influence, from Western from the West.
It's the Zihan theory, right? Of with all the geographical points. I don't know about Ukraine. I think actually it might be in Bessarabia they need to get to, which is in Romania and Moldova. But Ukraine's more for the breadbasket and the Black Sea ports, which they already had technically. They kept the ports in Sevastopol and stuff in Crimea, and that's how they were able to take it anyway in the first place. They had military personnel on base ready, But in terms of the other places, obviously the Baltics, the Poland, Eastern Poland at least, parts of Hungary, take your pick. But then why stop there? They were the only reason why they stopped expanding in the 19th century is because they were playing the great game with the British Empire in India. And then obviously the Crimean War happened, and that stopped them from expanding further westward.
No,
if they could, they would.
Well, again, if you look at what happened with Russia, right? What were they before? The Soviets took over, or the Reds took over. They were imperialists. So now they're going back to imperialism. It's well, now that we're no longer retarded by Soviet communism, now what do we have to go back to? Well, let's go back to imperialism, right?
Apparently, it has rare earth minerals as well in Donbass, or at least west of Donbass, and that's the prize. That's what Waffle Evil says. Doesn't surprise me.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there's so many things we could talk about regarding this. Do you have anything you want to talk about besides Lyra? Did you want to talk about anything in specific?
I've gone in totally unplanned, so that's something I've wanted to talk about. So that's good. Have you got anything else?
Well, we were talking about prior the whole James Lindsay thing, because apparently Lindsay blocked.
Oh, he blocks. Oh yeah, I can talk about that because I've been thinking about it. I don't blame Lindsay, honestly, for blocking Sargon, considering the way he's gone in the past couple of years.
Well, apparently,
what has he blocked him for again?
Because he's abandoned classical liberalism, so he must see him as sort of a threat.
In what way?
I guess because he shills for the pro-Russian side, and he's now a dissidiate right winger. So he hangs out with people like Academic Agent and the Stripitist and people like that.
I for all the talk about me being a Catholic, and yes, I know.
So he's hanging out with reactionaries.
Yeah, he's a neo-reactionary now, yeah. Well, also, bear in mind, there's a big... he is pro-Russian anyway, but there's a pro-Russian element in the Lotus Eaters.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I mean...
people like Callum, who's probably a Russian asset. I don't care. I've not talked to them for years. I can say this shit. Callum definitely is one. There's a community note somewhere where he said... He just released, tourism in the Novorossiya, which is what they call the occupied territories in Ukraine. Novorossiya, New Russia, yeah. He said it's called tourism in Novorossiya, and there's a community note. He made a community note because I think he got some backlash enough for him to make a community note, surprisingly. And he said, I was invited to go there. I'm like, you were invited to do tourism? So basically the Russians are trying to do the whole Chinese thing where they invite Westerners over to do like tourism videos, and it's called like propaganda tourism. It's just like they go to a Potemkin village, everything's arrayed for them, they see only the nice bits of a city, and then they come back and say, look, there's no genocide in Xinjiang, what are you on about? I just went there, even though it is happening. Like probably in like a road somewhere nearby or in the outskirts of a town, somewhere in the hinterlands there.
Yeah,
but they don't see that because they're not allowed to see it. So they make China look good, and it's the same thing with the Russians. And he's done it again today, like yesterday. I think he released a new one, tourism in Russia or something.
Yeah,
and he was saying some pretty incendiary things about Ukraine.
Yeah, and the thing that gets me about that whole thing is that, like, did they not watch any of the Yuri Bezmenov tapes? If that makes any sense.
They did.
Like,
I know that Carl has seen them, and he did do a video on it back in the day, like years and years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing that gets me about the whole thing is that this is like part and parcel for the Russians. Like, if I went to the UK, I would probably hang out in London and like the cities. I would not be going to the countrysides. And if I go to, let's say, Moscow or parts of Russia that are there, if I go, well, parts of Russia have electricity, right, and like indoor plumbing. Most of Russia doesn't have indoor plumbing or fucking electricity. They don't. They've been retarded by the Soviets, and they've been screwed over by them, and also by their own hand. So, like, how much of this is like them going to like the villages, Kropotkin, what was it called?
Potemkin.
Potemkin, yeah. That
Potemkin village is when they would build an artificial village to make everything look nice for Western visitors. Yeah.
They did the same thing with Yuri Bezmenov and how like they'd have certain journalists who go over there and they'd all be controlled. Like, how many of them are actually going off the beaten path and like saying, hey, you know what, we have a place we have to be at like, let's say 9:00 on Tuesday. Let's go this way. Let's go off the beaten path and let's see how the actual people live. The people who are not being,
very few managed to. And I think there was a few journalists managed to find out about the famine in Ukraine, but obviously the Pulitzer Prize winning New York Times, a former newspaper, decided otherwise and managed to win the propaganda war, at least for a couple of decades, until it all came out, thankfully, eventually.
Here you go. This is what I have. Like, again, I don't like the distributist. I really don't like him.
And I don't. He's a socialist. Distributism is just sort of Catholic socialism.
Yep, exactly.
And that's something also that James Lindsay was retweeting. He was retweeting stuff about the Pope and how the Pope is like a part of like some weird. It's called inclusive capitalism. It's one of the Rothschilds has founded it, which is weird. The Rothschilds are social. At least some of them are socialists. Weird that. Catholic ones at that. All of these will work with Catholics, and it's about creating a distributist society. Something that the distributist should like. But apparently, it's not true distributism if Pope Francis is doing it, because the end goal of that distributism is, well, socialism. But distributism is socialism. So, I mean, Harry-Ann Gladive, my friend, is a Catholic, and he says it's basically Catholic socialism.
Yeah. And, there's a long history of Catholic socialism. I mean, Catholics invented the term social justice. You know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, they invented the term. So, like, every day I regret basically joining the Catholic Church, because so many times I have to, like, be the fucking adult in the room with those people.
The only saving... I mean, I'm not a Protestant, but the only saving grace of Protestantism is you don't actually have to follow the church you're part of, because it's a very individual way of worship,
Amen.
Like a church, an Anglican doesn't need to follow the Anglican Church to still be an Anglican,
Yeah, and I do think it's superior in that regard, because one of the biggest problems, and I've talked about this before, is that liberation theology it doesn't just get a bad rap. It gets a bad rap for a good reason, but nobody ever talks about the other religions that were that were infiltrated. You have like the whole, Palestinian Islam plus Marxism, meant. They never talk about, the feminist infiltration of Wicca, let's say, which is basically liberation theology for feminists.
I've met people like that.
Oh yeah, dude. There's I think I had it on multiple times. The Burning Times. That's something that you should read just to get an idea of what you're dealing with. Because a lot of my friends, some of them became pagan. I have not had I have not turned on God. I will turn on the church in a heartbeat because some of the shit they say is just stupid. Like I was talking to one of my abbes, if that makes any sense. One of my cleric friends he was talking about how Hegel and phenomenology was so wonderful. He's like, oh, you just start with the premise. And I said, oh, so you start with the premise without actually having evidence. He's like, oh yeah, like that.
Well,
So,
phenomenology is one thing. That's kind of like a really complicated version of existentialism. But Hegel, Jesus.
And I said to him, so like white privilege. Let's just assume white privilege, and he immediately shut the hell up. The moment I brought up, let's just assume white privilege exists. And he just shut up, and he fell in line. And half the time, I have to basically be the good Christian, the good shepherd, against the church, sadly.
Why don't you just be a priest? Or a monk?
No, they won't ordain him. They won't ordain him.
They won't ordain me, and I want to get laid. I'll just say it. Like, I really do.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Because you're not Protestants, you can't, or Orthodox, you can't get laid, yeah.
Although, what's that?
That didn't stop others. It didn't stop other Catholic priests from doing it and getting away with it.
Yeah. But, like, so much of the shit that I've seen from the right-wing Catholic sphere is garbage. And I'm not going to bash... Like, I don't want to continuously bash them, but they have their heart in the right place, but they're just way too big with their broad strokes. I've said before...
I find most of them are fake. I don't buy that they're actually Catholics.
I agree. I mean, Nick Fuentes is a perfect example of that. And
I mean, I can imagine he's a Catholic. I don't know if he's practicing.
Well, I mean... Can you really say you're practicing if you're hanging out with cat boys, right?
He's lapsed.
Yeah, but even then, like, Catholic is as Catholic does, right?
I know, yeah.
And if you're in bed with a cat boy, even if it's like you're just bunking together because you want to save money on, let's say, rent or whatever, or not rent, but like housing or something. Cat
boy, behave yourself or bring out the UV light.
Oh, God. Fucking Christ. Let's see what else we got here to talk about. Besides the whole James Lindsay thing, I'm trying to find what other thing. I think I talked about this guy before, the Cantor Intelligence Network. I think I talked about him. How he was basically he had his own take about why he had his own take about the Masons and the Jews and whatnot. We don't have to get too deep into it, but he was saying that they were being used as like intelligence gathering people, like the same thing with homosexuals. And I kind of understand why they would do that, because then you could just say, oh, that fag over there or that Jew over there, we're not part of it. But a lot of this stuff was the royalty basically using the outcasts of society to get information to do stuff. I mean, it's no different than me using the adopt-a-thought that I had to get information. It's no different. And a lot of this stuff, the more the world changes, the more it stays the same. I'm trying to think of what else we could talk about regarding how long have we been going. I'm just rambling right now. Let's see, we've been going on.
There's big stuff that happens all the time. I've not made a video in ages, so I might be able to think of a few things.
But all right.
Although Waffle wants to know why libertarians are pro-Russian. Well, it's not every single libertarian. So like for example, I know quite a few Hoppians who are anti-Russian. Although they have other reasons for being anti-Russian that go beyond libertarianism, but they definitely are anti-Russian for sure. One's called Jared, and the other one is he goes with different names. End Democracy is one of them. He's called End Democracy.
And Chainsaw Man. Chainsaw
yeah.
Man, fucking the Argentinian Chainsaw Man. He's actually like
Melee, Melee.
Melee, yeah. He's actually.
Although he may have kowtowed to China a little bit, but it's hard to say. I've heard a few conflicting things, but that could be because he's in a desperate situation. But hopefully he won't kowtow to them.
Yeah, hopefully.
But yeah, he is. He's pro-Western. but a lot of them are not. In fact, it seems to be the majority. At least in America, it's the majority. In Britain, it's hard to say. I mean, it's on the most right wingers are pro-Ukraine, but I couldn't tell you about libertarians.
Well,
It's a few things. One, it's because they're a frustrated mind. This is basically what Roman said, in that conversation with Luchin. It's a combination of they're a disaffected minority, so they're looked down upon. They have been subject to censorship, and they see anyone that criticises the establishment as an ally. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, even though technically the establishment may be your enemy domestically, but it's not your enemy, at least internationally. You are still, after all, countrymen.
Which
and
I actually have something we could talk about.
Mhm.
Everyone talks about how the right has given culture over and culture and reading and writing and all that other good stuff and like the author readership and whatnot to the left. Well, one of the things I've noticed is that we've kind of seen the right give up neoconservatism and the foreign policy to the left. This is hence why we see people like Dylan Burns, and how we have a lot of these guys who are leftists basically taking on the role of neoconservatives, or how at least
it's because we look well. Not we didn't, but a lot of them growing up who are our age and even older. To be fair, they learnt the wrong lessons after 2001 and 2003. 9/11 and the war in Iraq and Libya they were kind of quite traumatic in a way. Well, 9/11 obviously was, but the interventions were misguided and there was lies told to obviously, go into Iraq that didn't need to be told. In fact, Saddam didn't need to be removed. And in fact, in hindsight, we now know we should have propped up these dictators because look what happened.
Yep.
As bad as that is to say,
Well, here's
but
the
that
thing.
doesn't mean that we should become 100% isolationist because look what happened the last time America did that. World War II happened.
Yep, and what's sad about the whole World War II thing is if again Tick history, I love Tick history. He really is a national treasure to you guys.
He really is.
He is.
I think he's from near where I live as well. If you listen to his accent.
Again, it's all the same to me. I hate to be. It just means I'm not cultured enough to know the difference.
I just don't know how you lot can't discern our different accents because we have a different accent every 5 minutes, let alone every 100 miles like you lot.
No, I got you. I got you on that. It's just that
it's more than that. It's a new accent every 1,000 miles.
But one of the things he talked about was why did Hitler have to invade Poland? Why did Hitler have? He believed in the shrinking of the markets. He believed that if and this is relevant to the whole Russian thing, is because what does Russia have to offer the world? Nothing except oil.
Oh, gas. Yeah.
Gas
and
oil.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the problem here is that he said, I believe, in one of his videos that the Western powers are industrialized. And the breadbasket of Europe is basically Eastern Europe and whatnot. And what will happen eventually is that if they industrialize, they won't need us anymore. So therefore, we have to invade and take over all of Eurasia, so that way we could save the world. Essentially, and again, I'm paraphrasing
Germany.
here.
Yeah, save Germany.
To save Germany, and I'm thinking to myself, this is a lot of the stuff unironically that the Russians believe is very similar to the Nazis.
It is very similar. If we don't expand, we will be invaded. It's like trauma from the Mongolian era. But it's like, no, you don't need to expand to save yourselves. Like, it's funny because when Germany first tried expansionism in Europe, it was because they were jealous that they didn't have as big a global empire as the Brits and the French. Well, I think there was somebody at the time after World War One said if the Germans had simply just become an economic and industrial powerhouse, they would have dominated the world because they were on their way to doing that. They could have been a bigger economic powerhouse than America at that time, even.
Yeah.
If they really put their minds to it.
Yep.
But they fucked it up because they're Germans.
Well, they followed
Prussians, maybe.
Well, it's also the fact that, keep in mind, Germany as a state is relatively new on the world stage, and and you have this whole state being built right in the heart of Europe, and you think that's just gonna the power isn't gonna shift one way or another? There's a lot of economic interests that are going on, you know.
I'm honestly surprised the Brits didn't intervene in the Franco-Prussian War. I guess we didn't think it was going to change the balance of power that much.
Well, what's interesting. What's interesting is that Cantor guy said that a lot of the anti-Semitism and shit like that was pushed by British intelligence, specifically to retard a certain faction within, I think it was the French Revolution. In fact,
I don't buy that. Anti-Semitism had been a thing in Europe long before that.
Yeah, but like the conspiracy theories of like the Rothschilds playing both sides and shit like that.
No, I don't think that British intelligence is needed to create that cognitive dissonance where the Jews are basically to blame for absolutely everything, including invading their own country, Israel. Because I think there's some. Why would because I think people were saying at one point that Israel was funding ISIS. It's like, why would they create their own existential threat?
Well, I mean, why did a lot of? Well, I could explain some of that. I could explain. Well, it's the same reason why we prop up Saudi Arabia, because again, you need to maintain good relations even with your enemies in some regards, right? So they have access to oil, and I do believe that
Saudi Arabia is not an existential threat to the US.
Not to the US, but to its allies and whatnot. So a lot of it is you have to have your hands in multiple pies, specifically because that again, who has the most oil, right? Russia, Saudi Arabia, and the enemies of the West, essentially, right? So and then this is where I get into the idea that green energy isn't just to save the environment, but to save the political environment, the current world order, so to speak. I mean, green energy, there are multiple angles to it. Some of it is to become energy independent, so you could say fuck off to the Saudis and fuck off to the Russians. But also, it's not just to save the planet. I mean, if we really want to save the planet, we just go after fucking China and say, it's China, stop polluting the place.
And India.
And India. Well, I mean, India is a weird. It's just a weird thing.
They're playing both sides, and I think like Hungary, they should have what's coming to them. But that's my opinion. But I'll be right back. By the way, so you guys keep talking amongst yourselves, and I'll be right back.
Yeah. So I'm gonna read some of the chat here. So let's see. Let's see. Wolf wants to be on. I'll let you on at some point in the near future. Because let's be frank, it's been long overdue since I've had a good talking to. And at the same time, I would like to have Mitch and you talk, just if not simply for the ratings, but also to get different people with different opinions. But he has to agree to it, and I don't want to have just, let's get someone else in. This is Mitch's time. And I actually allocated, there's a reason why we're on right now, is because Mitch is in another part of the world where he's actually taking time out of his day to be on, and we had to be accommodating, hence why we're starting at 1. Or not 12 instead of our normal hours. My brother's in the chat apparently saying, just remember Russians love snow, especially their women. I don't think they like snow. I think they have plenty of it. Let's see. Waffle Evil says, regardless, he should have left for Hungary after the SBU visited him for the first time. Yeah, he should have left. He should have never gone there to begin with. I have no business in Eastern Europe. I have no business in Europe. I wanted to go to Europe just for the nightclubs and stuff like that. I actually wanted to go to Manchester, believe it or not, the school, so to speak. Let's see. Waffle Evil says, the only thing that Mitch is lying about is being a Manchurian. He actually lives in
Mancunian.
Mancunian? Okay.
Mancunian. It's
Mancunian.
The noun for someone from Manchester. Mancunian.
Oh, you're from Manchester. I was just saying I wanted to go to your guys' school there. That was something I wanted to do, and I wanted to see Europe. But
which school is that?
Manchester United, I believe.
Oh, the class of '92 academy.
I wanted to. Well, no, I wanted to go there. I wanted to study there, if that makes any sense. How
there's not a Manchester United school. Do you mean the university?
Yeah, the university.
Oh, you want to go to MMU? Not University of Manchester. I went to both of them. MMU's not as paused as University of Manchester is, by the way.
Oh, well, in that case, I probably would want to go to there. But again, this is when I was younger. I wanted to go all around Europe, and I like the electronic dance music. I wanted to go and to ultra music festivals and things like that. I wanted to go where all the Instagram chicks are at. If that makes any sense.
I know what you mean.
So let's see what else we got. So Waffle says, "Let them fight." I will let them fight, but again, even cage matches, I gotta give him a chance to, get prepared, and Waffle and not Waffle Evil, Wolf to get prepared and Mitch to get prepared. But I don't want to. It's not fair to Mitch to just have him on and then have someone else come on and duke it out without unprepared. He's a guest, and I want him to be prepared. Well, I want him to be prepared if he wants to.
I mean, I'm not against debating necessarily for fun, but Edward Snowden's not something worth debating about.
Well,
no offense. I don't care if it sounds bad, but it's really not that important.
Well, I mean, it's just the opinion, right? I mean, like I even said, there are many reasons why you could be pro Snowden. Yes, there was spying going on, but what do you do with it? Do you go to Russia? Do you go to China? Do you really think they're going to kill you? Do you think that they were to give you a trial? Like, if the best thing you could do, and this is what I've often said when it comes to going against government, is be in a public place at all times. Whether it be you literally chain yourself to Times Square, so that way, if they ever make a move on you, everyone in the world will see it, right? But Edward Snowden would be. That's a topic in and of itself, and it just ultimately you could say it's just your opinion, right? Let's see.
It was
what
just
else
my opinion on them. It was an off-topic thing anyway. But like, thing is, like, you're Wolfwind. You're a libertarian, aren't you? I no longer consider myself one. At least I don't use the term since the war started, because libertarians dropped the ball so badly when it comes to geopolitics and civilizational survival.
Yeah, and
like,
at the same time,
you can dislike Zelensky. Like, I don't particularly like him. But that's more because of because he was, I don't know if he's left wing or right wing, but he was a bit of a clown anyway. Well, as prime minister before the war turned him into something much better. I mean, shit. He you know what he did as soon as the war started? He didn't enact price controls or anything like that, like the Brits did. He freed the fucking market up and created the First Amendment. That is not something that, I mean, maybe the First Amendment's one thing, arm the people, but to free up the market in a war, that's unheard of.
That'd be the second. That'd be the Second Amendment for arming the people, unless you're trying to arm them with good
sorry,
information.
Yeah, I misspoke. Yeah,
no, it's all good, man. It's all good. We could also talk about what's going on in New York with the freaking underground tunnels, which honestly,
that's amazing.
That is like
I saw a Tim Pool clip. I didn't hear the audio, but judging from his face, it looked like he was taking it way more seriously than he actually should. It's just a funny story.
Honestly, like again, as somebody who's very much pro-Israel and pro-Israel in the sense that I want them to exist as a state, simply put, because access to the Suez Canal and whatnot. But they're not above criticism, like anybody else, right? But when they do shit like that, like, you have to ask yourself, is this really going to help me and my people by building underground tunnels? Is it really going to help anyone? Because, like, from what I understand, like, there's a lot of different ways you could look at it. I personally like to think, and this is just me being wishful thinking, that the whole reason they had that was so they could go to their synagogue and pray. Like,
I think that was the idea, yeah.
But now they find blood on, like, mattresses and shit like that, and so, like, I think it could have been a brisk that could have went down. I think maybe that someone was trying to get brisk, but even then, like, why don't you just go to the? Oh, that's right, you can't go to the hospital because everyone's being, they're not essential, so to speak.
I think it could have initially started off that way, and then something else happened.
Yeah, it could have been that, and it could have very well been there were other things that could have went down under the tunnels, so to speak.
And they were trying to keep it in house because they wanted the community to sort it out. Maybe, who knows? They are that particular branch of Judaism and Jews in particular. Were they Hasidic? They were the Orthodox type, right? With the hats.
The ones with the uniform, yeah, the hats.
Yeah, they're very insular. They're not like, it's not as bad as, say, Islam, where they create ghettos, but they do have their own communities. It's their community, but they don't bother anybody. You can walk through it and no one's going to bother you.
Yeah, it's like Chinatown.
Yeah, it's like Chinatown, essentially.
Yeah, and so this whole thing, like, they have to ask themselves, like, why? Like, they should have just owned up to it and said, we want to go to church. Yes, there's blood on the mattress, but now apparently they were, even Golden was saying, why are they sending the entire police force into the tunnels? Like, this seems awfully like a plot point from fucking The Dark Knight. Like,
I did hear there was another thing about they thought some rabbi who died was like the Messiah or something. At least some of them there.
well,
Unless that was a different story about a
That
tunnel.
it might have been a different story. I mean, there are so many different people who've come out and said, I'm the Messiah. And honestly, from a Christian perspective, it's Jesus, guys. Yeah, it
Jesus,
really
man.
is. Jesus, man, exactly. Wolf said, I've heard 5 different stories on the tunnels, including a dispute over property rights, related
What if it's
to
all right? What if it's all true?
Well,
At different parts, different stages of the tunnel's life.
Well, yeah, it could very well be that. It could have been like it was an underground tunnel and it was a service tunnel, but they expanded it. It could have been a lot of different things. You don't
It's
really.
ingenious.
I think it's stupid to be. I mean, it's genius in the sense that, like, when the whole pandemic and all that crap
Yeah, that's
kicked
what I mean.
off,
Yeah.
it was very, very
They
ingenious.
were particularly targeted by the New York police.
They weren't, or they were.
They were specifically targeted by the New York police during the pandemic.
And I even said, it was on the record saying, we got to go down there and bolster them because, we may not see eye to eye theologically, but we could both agree that freedom of speech is being violated and freedom to assemble has been violated. I mean, I helped a lot of the church in my neck of the woods at the time, which was, again, I've made it to Arizona and I'm doing fairly well, all things considering. But, I wanted to go help them. I wanted to say, you know what, in solidarity, and I hate using that term because it's a lefty term, more or less, but in solidarity of your right to go to church and go to the synagogue, I would have stand with them. And we should have helped them. But, at the same time, they also know that no one's coming to save them. There is no Messiah coming to save them, unfortunately. He's not to like bash their theology or their worldview, but if you're really waiting for someone to come and save you, you got to save yourself to a certain degree, right?
To be fair, that's what they've done for thousands of years.
Yep.
But they do think a Messiah is coming. They just don't know who it is and when he'll show up.
The tunnels are too recent for the last lockdown. If it was made for lockdowns, would be the future ones. Source me. I've worked construction for decades. Oh, hey man, that's all. I would source you, and I would, and at the same time,
I mean, that could be true. Yeah, who knows?
Like, we don't. Again, were they made originally, or were they expanded? Were they like already there? Like, there's a lot of stuff you could go off. Or so. That's
At first, I thought it was Cold War, something that somebody in the Cold War made. Initially, that's what I thought in my head. Like, oh, this could be some old tunnels they found, and they just used it for themselves.
So, apparently, PPP is like. What are your thoughts on PPP and the Dvorsky and all them? I'm just wondering.
PPP.
The fat guy. I sent you before a link. He's the fat guy who looks like a lesbian.
I know Worsky.
He's
I don't
see if I can find PPP. This guy right here.
Oh, is he the one with the annoying voice that you shared once?
Ashton. Yeah, Ashton. The guy
That
Ashton.
guy is like seriously that guy.
Yeah, that
He couldn't stop shouting and rocking like he was on some weird ADHD meltdown. Like what?
The guy who reminds me of the guy from Jurassic Park, the Dennis Nedry, or whatever the fuck his name is. Yeah, that guy. What are your thoughts on them? Because I think they're like one of the few people who we could actually say are, I wouldn't say on our side, but they're definitely just keeping the lines of communication open. Because that's what I think during this whole the Ukrainian-Russian war debacle is having lines of communication open at all times, even to the left and to the right. I'll have anyone on, to be honest with you, even some of the SJWs. But I don't know. What else?
I don't know I don't really know the guy apart from that one video. It was definitely the fat guy in the sunglasses that you shared once, right?
Yeah, the fat guy with the sunglasses. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't stand watching him. Even if what he said about sticks was right, it was just too irritating for me.
Yeah, because I guess we could go more into the sticks thing. Because apparently, from what I understand, he, again, allegedly, he threw his wife down the stairs. apparently. Yeah, like
Bloody hell. If true, that's pretty bad. But I'm not going to say it's true because
I don't know
who
if
knows?
it's true or
If
not.
lying, we don't know.
We don't know. And, God forbid I take a woman at her word, right? If there's one thing I've learned from this whole culture war debacle is you don't take anyone at their word, let alone a woman, just because, what happened? Or, oh, it's so horrible. Oh, he's such a mean person. He's crazy. I'm like, well, you did have a kid with him, so he can't be that crazy, right? And I don't know. Until she makes an official story about it, I don't really know what to say, So there's that. And I'm trying to think of what else I have on topic that we could talk about. Oh, Christian nationalism we could talk about. What are your thoughts on Christian
If you
nationalism?
want,
Socialism for Christians.
I don't know if it's social. I don't know much about it. I wouldn't say it was socialism for Christianity. I would have thought that was distributism. But
I've read the book The Case of Christian Nationalism. That's exactly what it is.
oh, right, fair enough. Because my first thought would be, how the hell do you unite Christianity? Not even the Pope has been able to unite Christians. He couldn't even unite Catholics when Europe was entirely Catholic, apart from the Orthodox.
Yeah.
And how could you do that?
Well,
it's the same with the neo-reactionary alt-right types going, no more brother wars. I am not a Frenchman's brother. I don't even consider the Americans brothers. I don't even consider them cousins. No offense, guys. I know you're American, but
not
a lot of British people don't consider you cousins. We consider, like South. I don't know about South Africans, but I think people have some affinity with them because family stuff like that. But Australians certainly we consider brethren. New Zealanders, Canadians, even take your pick. But again, like I wouldn't consider a Dutchman a brother, even if we have like a shared history, which we do. I don't consider a Dane for similar reasons. Like Europeans just always want to fight each other. Asians always want to fight each other. So like this whole brother war thing, this whole Christian nationalism thing, it's just utopian nonsense.
I'd say it's an American utopian nonsense because only
no, it's not just Americans, mate. Trust me.
Are you sure? I mean,
Europeans are just as susceptible to this as Americans. Americans maybe Americans on the right might be more susceptible to it, but there's loads of Europeans in the fringe areas that believe in that. I mean, technically, the EU is born from the same kind of mindset that all Europeans are the same, we're all equal, and we should all be together in harmony. I mean, we should live in harmony, but that doesn't mean we should be in one big state, like they want.
Yeah, no, I got that, but like I was gonna say, moreover, like anytime you deal with like white nationalists, let's say, or Christian nationalists, like Christians, there's so many different sects of Christianity, just like there's so many different like nations, if that makes any sense, or tribes of white people. Like just apply like the killing blow for white nationalism and Christian nationalism is the same for Asian nationalism. There's so many different Asians. Whether it be the Japanese, Chinese, Laotians, even parts of China that have their own ethnic populations, whether it's the Manchurians or whether it's the Han Chinese or what have you.
Chinese or Japanese? I'm from Laos.
I'm from Laos, Laotian.
Are you Chinese or Japanese?
Laotian, which ocean?
No, but like that's the big thing for me. Like even Americans have this. Like there are people from the South, there are people from the North, there are people from the Midwest, there are people from the Southwest, there are people from the West Coast, the North and West Coast. They're just Indians. They're Anglos, right? Anglo from like the Anglo, like people like I think Styx is Styx Anglo. I can't remember if he's like.
Well, you know the American's an Anglo when he doesn't call himself English. But he doesn't call himself Irish or anything else.
Yeah, like again, it's a mixed pot, so to speak. My brother, actually, of all people, he's saying Mitch shouldn't talk about Christian nationalism in America. Why not? I mean, that stuff is all cultural.
I wasn't really. I was just saying, from what I could gather from my initial thought, was it's impossible.
I've mentioned in Luke's Wolfman Pepper says I've mentioned in Luke's server. But many of the founders couldn't stand each other. That's why they ended up with self-governing and federal system of government. Yeah, I agree. Some of them couldn't. Like a lot of them were like I mean, look at freaking Jefferson compared to, let's say, Adams, or Adams compared to, let's say, Franklin.
By that
So,
logic, your
Hamilton.
brother is he your actual brother, or is it just your bro?
he's actually my brother, Ray.
Oh, all right, yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot you were Latino.
Well, he claims to be Latino. Like it's weird. It's weird. Like my mom was born white, but Reagan said she's Hispanic. If that makes any sense. So like I'm white on. Actually, I'm Latin American on my birth certificate, but my brother's white for some reason on his birth certificate.
See, by that logic, you guys shouldn't talk about, devolution in Britain and stuff like that. All the relations between us, all the relations between the English, the Scots, and the Irish, and stuff like that. I see. We should all be able to talk about it.
Well, we could talk about it.
Just acknowledge your ignorance. Like, I know I'm ignorant on this nationalism stuff in America, but as a concept of Christian nationalism, which kind of predates the stuff in America, I can say it's still utopian nonsense, or something that's not going to work. I may not know the ins and outs of it in America, but I can gather it's bollocks.
Well, I'm kind of, tuckered out. If we have anything else we could talk about, if the chat has anything they'd like to ask you, maybe I could ask the chat if they have any questions.
If they want to ask me questions, we can go a bit longer, can't we?
we could. I mean, we've been going for about 2 hours so far.
I should really have planned for this. You were cop blocking me over this for so long, and now that I'm actually here, I'm totally unprepared.
Well, we'll get you on at a different time, and another time. You could get a bunch of stuff, grievances, and maybe some other things. So I'm not the best when it comes to like talking. We
could continue talking about our disappointment in a lot of our right wing fellows when it comes to
we could talk about
Russia
that
and stuff. I do have a grievance. So my main issue is not necessarily that they're ignorant and stuff like that, or they picked the wrong side. It's the fact that they should know better, because especially people like the Lotus Eaters and the Mises Institute and stuff like that, they either have access to material that will tell them what the Russians are like, or they know people who can tell them what the Russians are like, why this is something that goes beyond Ukraine. Because it is a war that goes beyond Ukraine, no matter what the isolationists, who are really just appeasers, who really are just, some of them anyway, not all of them, are just Russian assets, whether they know it or not, will tell you this is a fight between two civilizations. The Russians are not the same as we are. Why do you think the Ukrainians voted for independence in the first place in 1990? What? It collapsed for a reason, the USSR, which was essentially the Russian Empire, given extra legs. It's because it's a civilizational issue.
So Wolf says, "So you're a white Hispanic?" Yes, I'm like Fat Joe, the rapper.
White Hispanic.
Yeah, or Nick. Well, yeah, you could be.
What's that in Spanish? Some is Latino Blanco, something like that. I don't know.
I think Gringo, but I don't really. I don't know the actual term, so to speak.
The dashing gringo.
A dashing gringo, or a Zorro, like Zorro, the Spaniard. He was actually Spanish, but he was.
So what are you, Luke? What would you be?
I'm Germanic.
You're what? So is that like German, Austrian, like
both sides of my
Nordic?
family? Both sides of my family came from Germany to America.
Oh wow!
My mother was Spanish and my father is German, so I'm half.
I know Aidan Paladin's Welsh.
Which of course explains why I became why I'm still Protestant and why I became a Calvinist.
Latino.
I didn't know you were a Calvinist. I thought you were a Catholic. I thought you both were Catholic.
No,
I'm tolerated as the editing crew.
I see.
And also at the same time, we again. I don't have this hatred of Protestants, because I was a Protestant. I was a non-denominational Protestant. Probably one of the reasons why I stand up against the priesthood when they do stupid shit and they push stupid policies. Because I know better, and I have to. And
I don't even hate Catholics. I meme it on Twitter a lot, as you've probably seen. I don't actually hate Catholics. I went to a Catholic sixth form, which is like a high school senior in America. Yeah,
that's pretty good. That's pretty cool. But
yeah, if you've heard of the Loretto organization or foundation, whatever they're called.
No, I have not.
It's like a worldwide Catholic organization that just teaches kids from like high school age to 18 years old, 19. Yeah.
Like honestly, I made a vow to join the Catholic Church, and so I'm basically here until they excommunicate me, if that makes any sense. And that might happen sooner rather than later, unfortunately. Not because
You will be a martyr, mate. Don't worry.
I probably would, and given a little bit of my, like I want to be famous to a certain degree, but I don't want to be famous that way. But you don't really get to choose what you're infamous for, so to speak.
I think your brother's throwing heat. He's throwing shade at you, mate. Saying you're German and Spanish. You got fascism in your blood. What say you?
Well, in all fairness, like I do, like when I was fighting the Antifa people in Berkeley, like I always called my dad Hitler because he's German, because it's funny to fuck with him like that. and he said, "Oh, you're Franco." I'm like, "Well, technically, I kind of am. I am fighting the same types of people who Franco was fighting, the communist anarcho-syndicalists, so to speak." So it is very interesting that history
what's
is repeating
funny?
itself.
One of my favorite philosophers, who he's a bit hard to read, not because his concepts are hard to understand, but he writes in a very flowery way, and it's probably the translation that doesn't help. He's called oh crap, one sec. Why can I forget his name? Why am I blanking? Revolt. He did a book called The Revolt of the Masses, which I've been shilling for years since I read it, because it's just he developed the term the mass man. He coined that term, which a lot of the Dissidiate right use, but don't understand where it comes from, and that it actually, when he used, it's called, that's it, Jose Ortega y Gasset.
Oh.
When he uses that term, the mass man, he's referring to them. He was on the Republican side, believe it or not, but he was not like a leftist. He was a right-wing aristocrat in a way, but I don't know if he was anti-monarchy, but he was in the government. Yeah.
Yeah,
because he seems pro-monarchy in the book, like he believes in some kind of aristocracy. But then again, that doesn't mean you're a monarchist. The Romans were aristocratic, but not monarchist. At least until the Empire,
I mean, if anything, I kind of was part of the upper echelon. I mean, like when I talked to Lucien, the Freedom Alternative, he even said, "Oh, you're like the Moscovites." I'm like, "What do you mean like that?" He's like, "Oh, you're basically in the Silicon Valley, and everybody else within California kowtows to you, between you and L.A." And I was living high and mighty at the same time, but I didn't want to. I didn't like the way things were going. The COVID lockdowns and all the rest of the crap that was going on. I just said, okay, well, there's a certain point where I have to just say no and I have to give up my homeland, like what the hell was his name? The character from Red October, Ramius, or the Sean Connery's character, how he had to give up his. Yeah, and I did the same thing. I left and I took a hybrid vehicle, coincidentally, out of California into America and defected, and basically, I wouldn't say balkanized. Like I've often been, I don't want to say balkanized, but I went where people who would agree with me, more or less. And even then, I got shit from leaving California. I still get shit from leaving California sometimes by certain people. I know racists will probably hate my ass because I'm a Californian, even though technically I'm an extremist when it comes to the Second Amendment. Because again, when you lose something, you tend to value it a hell of a lot more. And if you
get shit because people think you should have stayed to fight or something like that.
Well, they think that I'm going. Well, one of the things you're going to realize about me and Luke is that we both can very well integrate with leftists very easily because we look very similar to them. Like, if you were to see what I actually look like, what Luke looked like Luke, you have a ponytail, right?
Yep.
And so a white guy with a ponytail who's an artist, do you really think that he's conservative? You wouldn't think of that. Just at face value. You think the guy is a hippy-dippy type of guy. And you look at me and you say, well, he looks like he looks like something, right? He's definitely not from around here.
I mean, I do, virtually being, mixed race and darker than most white people, so, yeah. And I'm not that dark. And also, I'm a northerner, so people would probably assume I'm a Labour supporter when I'm not anymore. Although even then, when I voted for them, I wasn't a supporter as such as they are the left-wing party, I must vote for them.
Yeah.
Or if it's a shit candidate, just don't vote at all. That is my, well, I don't know about my dad, but on my mum's side of the family, that's very much the belief. Although I'm not sure about my granddad, but my mum on my mum's side. But my mum usually just if she doesn't like the leader of the Labour Party, she just doesn't vote for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
There's no this.
she says she doesn't anyway.
Well, there you go. I mean, like I was talking with. I think I sent you the link to brother John. You know the John Collins. I think I sent you a link. He was also a Northerner. He has talked about before about the council or what the hell that is.
Brother John.
I'll send you a link to his channel. Let's see if I can find it.
Have I met him? Is he? I might have met somebody with a similar name in a Discord server. Why is he from Northern England?
He's from Northern England.
Whereabouts? Do you know what city or town?
Rochester.
Oh, Rochester.
Yeah.
Oh, right. He's in Yorkshire? Or was that Lancashire?
I don't know. Let me see if I could bring up his channel. John Collins.
Oh, he's not in the north at all. He's in Kent.
Yeah, here we go. This channel.
That's like 200 miles away in the south. Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, you could put a picture of him up on there. I like him a lot, but like he has some very insightful takes. Again, by the way, it's a lot of the links are in the Discord for you, Mitch, and I'll send them to you via your Twitter as well. But I like him, and you know, one of the things he said is that we're going to have to go talk to the left, talk to our own side, because you know. Like he's a great guy. I like him. He actually does like freelance therapy and shit like that. So he's pretty good. He's very insightful about a lot of the stuff, about a lot of the occult, even in that regard. But
I'm just going to judge his accent. I'll just deafen very quickly. One second.
Yeah, here we go. Listen to it. You can play it, Luke.
Yesterday morning,
Yeah, he's definitely from the north.
He's a Northerner. Oh yeah.
Well, he doesn't live up here anymore. If he lives in Rochester, that's in Kent. Yeah.
But he said that we're going to have to eventually talk to our own side and basically pull their head out of their ass. And I think there may be some truth behind that, because Yuri Bezmenov even said, "Never talk to leftists, aim higher." And I'm like, well, if you're not going to take them, I guess I'll take them. You know, I'll be the guy who will tell the left what's what. Because I could actually approach them, and me and Luke have.
Oh, you said where he's from wrong. He's from Rochdale.
Rochdale.
That's literally down the road from me. You know that, right?
Oh yeah.
I thought he had a slight twang. I knew I'd heard that accent from somewhere.
Yeah. So like he's talked before about how the
it's a shithole, by the way.
Yeah, he even says it's a shithole.
It is a shithole, yeah.
But like he's talked about, has a lot of good insights. I want to get him on at some point, but I mean, we've had sort of a falling out here and there, but we don't really because of the internet, you never really say goodbye to people. You just say, you know, I'll see you later, so to speak, because you know, certain people, whether it be, you know, even internet aristocrat Jim, right? Mm-hmm. I thought he was going to die, but apparently he keeps coming back. And I guess maybe God still has a plan for him at some point.
Or maybe he's not actually dying.
It's possible. It's possible. I mean, a lot of people are saying he's faking it so he could fake his death and go live out his life with his Asian girlfriend. That's possible.
Who's now slightly thicker now, allegedly.
Well, maybe.
Jade. Oh, Jade. Do you remember? Were you around when they did the fan fiction of him getting fucked by Milo Yiannopoulos?
Yes, I was around at that time. In fact, I got involved.
Did you see the dramatic reading by Blackface Kermit?
I think I did, but like
his Jim was perfect, but his Milo was not very good.
I was like I got involved with the whole dissident right, or dissident circles, so to speak, as a direct result of Gamergate, and the reason why,
yeah.
Well, it was very an eye-opening experience, because I always thought that you have that recency bias. Like you think that the whole world is similar to what you're like, right? So like Californians think that everything is like California, when in reality it's a fucking paradise, like at least geographically speaking. But, you know, you go to Arizona, you don't know what it's like to be in 120-degree weather until you've been there. So, like, I have this idea of, I'll just walk right through. I'll just march right through down the street. And I'm like, no, it's like it's like a damn journey through the Sahara, practically, quite literally in some regards. But the whole reason I got involved with this whole dissident circle of politics is because the same people who screwed me over during my time when I was in California were the same people who were screwing everyone else over, and it was sort of like, oh, I'm actually one of the bad guys. I'm one of the, I guess, the bad guy faction, but I'm not really a bad guy, so to speak.
Are we the baddies?
Are we the baddies? Yeah, exactly. And so I realized that wow, the place that I'm in is basically an epicenter for a lot of these leftists and whatnot. That in Seattle, so to speak. But the reason I got involved in it is because I wanted to correct what was wrong and what was happening. But at the same time, I sort of separated myself from them. And now I'm realizing, just like Brother John said, you're going to have to go back and talk to them because you need to be able to maintain those lines of communication just so we don't kill each other. And if something like, let's say, the Russians or the Chinese are trying to egg each other on, and they are, in America especially, they're trying to egg on the left and the right to fight each other, you're going to have to go and tell the other side, yeah, your friends are following Russian propaganda, and I can prove it to you. And people like me and Luke are, and even yourself for that matter, are in that unique position to bridge that gap, to bridge that divide. So I think
to be fair, I just don't see what good debate will do with them. I don't mind talking to them as people, because the way I do it is I just I pretend that I'm not really. This is what I do in work or any public place. I just sort of. It's different with family. You can't, whatever. They kind of know what I am, but not really. I just plant little seeds of doubt. I just plant little seeds of doubt. So just say, oh, okay, you think, excuse me, guys, you think that, but then what about this? Just get them to think about something.
Yep.
If it's a good seed, that it'll make them think and have doubts, and that's what you want.
So, like,
you're not going to convince them straight away.
Like one of the people I spoke to, she is like, if I showed you a picture of her, and I might do that in a different time privately because I don't want to put it on broadcast online, but this woman is an SJW is to the core. She literally has every single red flag out there. She is a single mother. She has the dyed hair. She is tattooed all over the place to the point where she even tattooed her tits, believe it or not.
Oh, God.
With skulls, right? So that's the first thing you want to see is if you want to see your freaking.
What is it with them and skulls?
Well, not even it was with them skulls. She's a witch. She's like literally a fucking witch, and the only reason I know this chick is because she was. As somebody who grew up in the Silicon Valley during my adolescence, so I got to see the rise of social justice, and when everyone's like, "Oh, Marxism sounds wonderful," and I guess because I was all white enough, let's say, they didn't like me and they'd exclude me from that shit. But at the same time, I didn't have the best education. I like to think of myself as more of an autodidact. So there are certain things I don't have in my repertoire of intellectual artillery, but there are certain things I don't really need. So this like, I'm able to talk to some of these people, and I tell them, like, she wanted to leave and go to Salem, Massachusetts, because of course she fucking did, right? And she's like, oh, I don't like guns. I don't like guns. Guns are evil. I'm like, well, you do know that, like, you're in the one city where they actually have gun control on the city level, right? You're probably the safest part out there. So that's an example of how I would try to change their mind as well. I don't really have debate so much as I have dialogue, I think dialogue is far more useful than debate because, like, all you're trying to do is trying to win, not even win the argument so much as you're trying to, how can we say it? You're trying to show a difference of opinion, right? And the one way I've learned that works is you give them a word they're not familiar with. You like, these are the type of people who have their lexicon set in stone. So sexism is they have an idea of what sexism looks like. They have an idea of what racism looks like. They don't, but if you could surprise them and say, there are examples of sexism that's benevolent, like holding a door for a woman, or trying to prevent, let's say, one of your mates from, like, shagging a chick who's like drunk, and because you think it's unethical, right?
Can I just say, I love that you say mate. You're the only American that I allow to use the term mate.
Well, you know why that? Like, one of the things,
Luke can as well. Luke's all right.
one of the reasons I say that is because being in the Silicon Valley, there were so many different people from different parts of the world. I had lots of Russian friends. I had lots of Jewish friends. Like, for one of the only friends I have, who's still from there, that I could actually say is a friend, was a Proud Boy, and he's a Jew, right? So, and he sort of pushed against his family's own political biases because they're liberal, so to speak. They're upper middle class. But he's learning by the numbers because I told him, go down to your dad's foundry because his father was a blacksmith, a metal worker, someone who actually worked with his hands. I said, go talk to them and tell them who you are. Say that you're the son of the guy who worked here. Can I please learn the trade? Because you're going to have to provide for yourself because you can't rely on mommy and daddy's money all the time.
This may sound very horrible and stereotypical, but that's not a very. It's not a job you associate with Jews in America.
No,
but then they must obviously exist. Otherwise, how would they get the horses fixed? Obviously Jewish blacksmiths exist.
They do,
but it's just not what you think about. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I told them, go and talk to them. Go hang out with them. But like again, going back to why I say mate and whatnot is because I wanted to go to the UK. I wanted to like study that. I wanted to go see Europe. I wanted to go do that for like the early part of my life. I wanted to do that. And at the same time, because of all the multiculturalism, and I'm talking multiculturalism in the sense that there are people from different parts of the world, all coercing or all I guess the term, what would the term be? Conversing, the convergence, I guess the term would be.
Cosmopolitan, I don't know.
Cosmopolitan, so to speak. So I would have people from the UK be there, and I can remember I had a teacher from Australia, and she was a singer, so to speak, and we were singing in school at the time, and I kind of got her accent. I had an Australian accent of all things.
All right, mate.
What's up?
All right, Cam. All right, mate. What's up, mate? All right.
Yeah, that and also the fact that for the longest time I was a night owl, so I was encountering people from various parts of the world online, so I sort of picked up some of what they said.
You want to know the difference between Kiwi and Australian?
Sure, why not?
Kiwi is more nasally and a bit more whiny, so like, and they pronounce things in a weird way. So if you're an Australian and you say the word deck, they go deck. Right, just deck, right, in an Australian way. But if it's a Kiwi, it's deek. Gotta sit down on the deek. That kind of thing, yeah.
I got you.
And then with South African and Kiwi is really difficult to do for me, by the way.
I got you. I actually
South African.
South African.
I'm gonna go down to Johannesburg, guys.
I actually had a boss from
I've met a few South Africans because a lot of them moved over here because they had enough. I don't blame them for what's going on down there. Most of them are English, by the way. I don't think I may have met an Afrikaans, but most of them are English. One of them, his dad was from Yorkshire. But they all sound the same. When they speak English, they all sound the same. The white ones. Like it's the same accent. Maybe the Afrikaans are a bit heavier, but it's exactly the same. And then I work with a Rhodesian as well at one of the sites I work at. But you would think she was South African, but apparently they also have that accent. And she said, I asked her, what's the difference? She said, we're more refined.
Of course they are.
The South Africans are really rough.
Yeah.
The only South African who doesn't sound rough is Winston, Serpent's Head A.
The only South African I know, and this is actually a stretch, is Lloyd de Jong. Lloyd.
De Jong, yeah.
De Jong, yeah. I should say de Jong, but
yeah, it's like Dutch, so it's De Jong, yeah.
De Jong, yeah. I like him a lot. Do you recommend any channels?
Who do I recommend? Yeah. I've not really watched much of De Jong. I know of him, obviously. Seeing the interviews. I recommend Roman. I forgot his surname. Let me just get Luchan's chat with him. Although he hasn't made a video in ages.
He hasn't, and that's like the biggest sin that I think that a lot of us in this chat have done is we haven't made enough videos. And
I'm on a break, so that's my reason. I needed to touch grass hard.
I needed a job, so I needed that's
it. Well, I had a job that got in the way. The more work I did the last time I had for the channel. Roman Skaskiv is one guy you should check out, at least on Twitter. Another Twitter account is Kamil Galeyev. He's a Russian who is anti-Putin and all that. He's one of the good ones. I do recommend him.
Camille
I recommend Galeyev. Yeah, I recommend some Ukrainians. I recommend Operator Starsky. Obviously, he's great, and his videos are dead short as well. So you get all the information and jokes all under 5 minutes most of the time. So, and also he created one of the best ever Putin jokes. So he'll go, Vladimir Putin, also known as Hulo, which means dickhead, by the way, in Ukrainian, maybe Russian too. Yeah. I recommend. Who else do I recommend? Well, Luchin, obviously, that goes without saying. I recommend my friend Harry Angladive because I mentioned him on the channel. If you want more of a British perspective, my own channel, gotta go there. Who else have I been? I've not watched much of the political guys because they're either really crap now or
they're bought,
or like they're not doing anything, or they're just not doing anything. That's the thing. Tick History, obviously. James Lindsay.
James Lindsay is
V,
great.
although V sometimes I feel like he should make a video about something, but he won't. So, like, has he done a video on Coach Red Pill? Yeah, he hasn't done it yet for some reason.
Actually, he has.
Did?
He has, and we can watch that if you'd like. We can watch that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I literally didn't. I literally missed it because I was worried because he's probably still mates with Carl. Like, oh, best not make a video that might anger these.
Well, honestly, I don't really care if I anger them as long as at the end of the day.
I don't see a video about Coach Red Pill. He did one on James Lindsay.
He did one on James Lindsay. I'm trying to think if he found one on. Like the thing about V is he has
would
like
have
5
done
or
one
6.
back in the day. Oh, does he? Does he have way more bloody channels now? I thought he had 2. Does he have
has like 3 or 4 almost now, and a lot of it is because he got demonetized, so to speak, and a lot of it also is because, again, if you get put in a gulag like me, like right now we have like more people in the chat, but we only have like 3 people watching, so to speak. Or at least that's what YouTube tells us. I don't actually trust YouTube's metrics anymore. I oftentimes joke that I have 1 million subscribers, but YouTube keeps hiding them from the rest of you.
Streams are weird. Like that's just 3 people at this moment, but overall maybe like 80 people could have watched it at any given time. I don't know how it works, but you finish the stream, you've had like 1 person watching the whole time, but actually you've had 25 people watching.
Yeah,
something like that. It's really weird.
Yeah, Luchin. Honestly, I saw him from what was his name? I think his name was Rocking Mystery. Do you remember him?
I do remember him. He went off the deep end.
I kind of pushed him there. Unfortunately, I do. I told him there was a lot of stuff with the occult, and a lot of the stuff is connected to the occult. But the problem here is people mystify the occult. And as a result, they get lost in mysticism. I take the Stargate SG-1 approach, where you're not actually so it's like we can explain it with science. So like I talk about how a lot of magic is actually just drugs. Like Crowley, for example, would like roofie people, and then he would say, "Oh, you're having a magical experience" and stuff like that. Wouldn't you just drugging someone and whatnot? I'm trying to think of who else we've been going on. I don't want to kick you off, but at the same time, I'm just trying to figure out stuff that we could talk about because I want to give you.
We could talk about. How about the obvious grifters on the right that need to be called out, like academic agent?
Yeah, let's talk about them. Let's talk about them.
And Tim Pool as well to some extent. So it's something I've noticed increasingly over the years, and that is that there's certain people who, if there wasn't a culture war going on, if things were relatively calm in the culture or in the world even, then they would be irrelevant. Nobody would care what they have to say.
Eddie Spaghetti.
But because there's a war going. Well, wars will go on regardless, even if cultures are relatively stable. But because we're currently in a civilizational upheaval, we're in the decline, and we're amidst the decline. We're now at the stage where we can see it for ourselves. These people are now relevant.
I don't actually think we're in the decline. I think we're just in another part of history. I mean, I think that's like recency bias. There's a lot of people who want us to be in decline.
There has, well, from my perspective as a Brit, there has been a decline. And I can see America's definitely not as strong as it was 10 years ago. You know, like there's certain things it doesn't seem to be able to do or want to do, but that's besides the point, you know. From my perspective, we're in the decline and we're starting to see it. I don't think it's anything like the fall of Rome or anything like that. That was a video I should have done a long time ago, actually.
Well, I mean,
but regardless, we're in this kind of phase, and these people are relevant because they're good at making themselves be heard and can create an audience. But if none of that was happening, nobody would care. So what do they do? Rather than actually become activists that actually do stuff, like what Luchin does, or what I would like to do at some point when I've got a bit more money, because I really want to challenge Labour for mayor at some point.
I think
But I don't have the money. You know, I could pay the fee to become mayor, but then I need a budget to go about spreading my message. But if these people go on,
if you run for mayor, I will definitely shill for you. I have said before, like, I am sick of these activists. I am sick and tired of them.
It's something I do want to do. It's not just like some fantasy. I have seriously considered it. It's just I need the money, man. I'm going up against 2, 3, 4, 5 political parties potentially, though. Although, to be fair, with the mayoral race, you do get a lot of independents, and the local seat has even interviewed somebody from Manchester who was running for mayor. I personally didn't think he isn't going to win, but you know, Burnham will win, who's our version of Sadiq Khan, but he's got a bit more sense to him. He's still horrible, but you know. But anyway, I need to get back on my point. These people would be totally irrelevant in all this was happening. So I think they purposefully hope and don't do anything that could actually make some change. Oh, sorry, guys. Even if it's minor, because that will affect their bottom line. That will mean that the Patreon dollars will stop coming. That means that they won't get the views that they would get. They'd have to think of some other kind of content to make.
Yep.
And then there's others who... So that I think for that particular kind of grift, that it's become a grift over the years. Like Tim Pool's probably one of them. He probably started off as a naive person who just wanted to make the world a better place. That's why he covered Occupy, which made him famous the first time around. But now I think because he's so invested in the Civil War's coming and stuff like that, I think he kind of wants it to get worse so that he gets even more subs and more views.
He wants the world to burn so he can get ratings.
That's what it's become. I don't know if it's conscious or not, but you know, that is what it is. But then you get other people like Academic Agent. This guy has always been a grifter.
Well, it's
because, and you know,
he's
Academic Agent. He was, yeah. This is a guy who was like an English lecturer, and he spotted an opportunity to make political content that catered to, at first, I would say classical liberals / libertarians. He did that for quite a while, made a decent killing out of it, but then he started to notice this was probably 2016, 2017, so you know when the alt-right started becoming fashionable online and they got quite a few converts before they burned out.
Yep.
He noticed that, like his Discord server, it was a Discord server at the time, what was it? I forgot what it was called. It was a long time ago. He noticed that they were becoming increasingly radicalized. This is just on their own. And at first he was like, I don't know why this is the case. Why is my Discord server so radical? Like, it doesn't make sense. I'm not like that. But then he started to become like that. It was very obvious he was catering to that as opposed to the people who really liked him who were not like that. And then he started to flip-flop constantly. Every week there'd be a new author that he got really into, a new thing he would fixate on. And at first people thought, oh, it's just the way he is. He's a bit autistic. He has obsessions. But for me, it became apparent that it wasn't. Yeah, the deep law. Thank you. The deep law, yeah. And and then the thing that broke the camel's back for me, the straw that broke the camel's back for me was I actually appeared on Unpopular Opinions twice. And
nice.
I didn't get to know him. But he once went on some weird thing about, because in adverts, it's probably the same in America. In adverts, there's a lot of interracial couples, right?
Right.
And he thought it was proper. He's, by the way, he's mixed race. He's part Persian, part Welsh. He said, "Oh, it's obvious propaganda to make people want to have to promote miscegenation and stuff like that." Those of us who are a bit more sane say, "No, it's just DEI stuff. It's how do we get the maximum amount of whites and blacks and Asians, whatever, together? Oh, we'll just make a family. Bingo, right? Makes
Yeah.
sense." He wouldn't have any of it, and he called me a pathological liar for disagreeing with him.
Oh, bullshit! That you're not.
Yeah.
There are many things that you are, Mitch. You're not a liar, and you're let alone a pathological liar. My personal
I know.
opinion is it's very well marketed. Like I could remember Beckloff, which I'd recommend his channel since you've recommended some channels here and there. The Beckloft. He talked about when he was going on to he was checking Netflix, and it was like a documentary about Blacked, right? And if you read, he didn't watch it, but he was talking about the description about the philosophy behind it. I'm like, what the fuck are we talking about philosophy in porn? Like, what philosophy? Marquis de Sade, not Heraclitus, Epicurus? Like, what are we talking about?
Well,
And
Epicurus wasn't really about porn and stuff. His idea of pleasure was bread and water and the good chat.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm thinking to myself, like, is it just that it's being marketed in such a way that there's this controversy that we can never really talk about, that we can never really describe, but it's controversial, we know it's controversial, and therefore it sells because sex sells, but also controversial sex sells, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what I think it is. I think a lot of it is they know that they're a racist, no matter how that exists, and that they don't agree with it, and they're going to amplify those voices because they know that they will become a marketing gimmick for them. Like they'll become a mindless drone to spread the message, even if it's in opposition to it. You know. So I actually think that right now we're in the how shall we say it, the woke exploitation, the exploitation phase of woke.
Woke exploitation, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've also got people like Peter Hitchens who grift off it as well, to some extent. Though he's a bit more slimier with it because he does have decades of being on the right anyway. But he's another one who grifts off the whole "there's no hope, all is lost, we can't do anything about it," and that's how he makes his money. That's how he sells his books.
Well,
It's a meme. It's a meme that he's such a doomer. But for me, it's quite insidious. Because why is he doing this? All he ever does is demoralize people. You have to wonder, why are you doing this? Are you just doing it because you're stupid? He's not a stupid man. He says stupid stuff, but he is, after all, the brother of Christopher. I mean, they're both smart guys. He does it on purpose. One, because it benefits him, and two, I think this more and more nowadays. I don't think he's truly got rid of his former Trotskyite self, and probably still has. He does still have left-wing views, especially on the economy. By the way, he probably he probably does it for the left to some extent. You just don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's just weird that he's tolerated in mainstream circles and he's on TV and stuff.
Well, it's his last name. It's the same reason why is Hillary Clinton's daughter Chelsea Clinton? Why is she relevant? Because she's a Clinton.
True,
right?
But you got to bear in mind both Hitchens kind of became famous at not because of their name, but because of what they did.
Well, what did
Peter Hitchens has been a household name since the 80s. So was Peter. So was Christopher. Yeah.
I know that Christopher Hitchens had a freedom of speech, I guess, show back in the day where he would actually platform people he disagreed with, right? I think he platformed.
I don't know about that. I've never seen that. I know that Buckley did, and Hitchens appeared on that show many times.
I remember he had what was his name? He was a white nationalist guy from from America.
Yeah. I don't know, but he was mates with a well-known Holocaust denier, or at least respected him.
Yeah,
what was he called? The British guy, he sued that Jewish woman for calling him a Holocaust denier. And he lost
David Irving.
David Irving, yeah, they were very friendly. Christopher Hitchens and David Irving, believe it or not. Yeah.
So when we're talking about grifters on the right, how about that? How about that frickin' Paul Joseph Watson?
I have a soft spot for Paul, but yeah, I know what you mean because I've actually met him.
Yeah, I've heard that he had a lot of ties with I'll just say it right now. A lot of these dissident right people, they're just in it to get laid. Like a lot of them are just in it to get laid and get rich. Like I was talking with Luke a while back in a couple podcasts that a lot of why do we see a lot of these people like Tim Pool and whatnot basically flaunting their money around? Well, it's because they didn't have money. A lot of millennials are a byproduct of the 2008 financial crisis, and so when they get money, they start doing what they would normally they be who they would normally be otherwise, right? So if I had money and I had relatively safe income, I'm going to lead towards stasis as opposed to something that's more dynamic, right? A more dynamic lifestyle. So a lot when I was in Berkeley, I fought in Berkeley at one point against the communists. I thought that was a great time. I was with my friend at the time. He's actually in that video. And a lot of the people just wanted they wanted to talk. They wanted to, so many people, whether because of their jobs or their lifestyle or their social circles being so few and far between, the only time they could actually get along and actually talk to a chick is when they're at a fucking political rally.
Yeah,
And
I mean, it's a temptation that is something I don't know if you guys have ever fell for it, but I had my fair share of relationships that didn't go. Well, they weren't relationships; they were like flings that didn't go anywhere as a result of being a political YouTuber. It's all in the past now, and luckily they were in the other they're in America, so there's nothing could have happened to me physically anyway. Thankfully. Oh no, one of them was actually local, but I never met her. But yeah, it's a temptation that you fall into. It's just natural. It's human nature, right? You're gonna find someone you're attracted to, and they find you attractive, and stuff happens. But luckily, I never did anything physical with people in the so-called movement that we're in. Thankfully, I mean, I wouldn't mind somebody to be my girlfriend, but there's a danger that it could become a scandal.
Well,
and
it's also
it does come out. People will leak it to your enemies, and they will use it against you. It's happened to me.
Well, one of the reasons why I have Saving the West as a side quest as my moniker is because honestly, there was a time, it was another riot that happened at Berkeley, or another movement that was happening at Berkeley, and I was with my friend, and I had two other people, and it was I guess our side didn't show up, and there was hundreds and probably about 10 to 12 to 1 when it came to MAGA versus, let's say, Antifa. And I said, okay, guys, well, since I'm basically your strike leader in this little whole, the leader of, let's say, your of this little regiment or party or whatever we're in, we're taking off all of our clothes and we're getting the hell out of here. We're taking off our colors because it's like a gang fight, right? And we're gonna get out of here. That's my main goal, is to get you guys out of here. We are not going to be, we're not gonna. Trump does not give a damn about us fighting a glorious fight against the communists in Berkeley. He doesn't care. Most politicians don't care. They'll say, "Oh, my condolences," and they'll move on with their lives. So,
basically,
yeah. And I think that I really do think if you run for mayor, dude, I will gladly shill for you. You should, and maybe you might, maybe I don't know. I mean, your finances better than I do. I just got my job, and I had a really hard winter. Let's just say the highlight for my winter was I got my grand slam at Denny's for my birthday. That was my highlight. And even then I had to pay $4 for orange juice, which was just ridiculous.
Here's a question for you though.
All right.
So have you ever noticed, this is framing the question. Have you ever noticed that women in right-wing circles, I don't know if it's the case in left-wing circles, it might be, but have you noticed that they always seem to explode in popularity? They may not necessarily become huge celebrities, e-celebrities, but they may get up to 3,000 followers on Twitter in about 3 months, when it takes you, say, 2 years, because you're a man, right?
Right.
Do you not think that is simping? Because it is simping, let's be honest, and desperation on the online rights part, because it's mostly male. Let's be honest, right? It's mostly a male space. In real life, it's more 50-50, but online it's mostly men. Do you not think that's like a source of entryism? Because a lot of these girls who come in on the right, they're their own kind of grifter. It's like sex grifting. Then others are feminists who are trying to influence us to some degree.
Well, a lot of the like, as much as I like to talk about Christianity versus paganism, a lot of these women who are on the right, especially I think what's her name, Philosophat, I believe her name was. She is a case in point of that. Like, she is a grifter. A lot of I think Pettibone, for example, Lauren Southern's a perfect example of that.
Oh yeah, I remember. PJW didn't like her, and it wasn't just for those things that she leaked. From what I remember from talking to him and another person, I mean, it was so long in the past. I doubt they even remember. Well, she knows who I am. This girl, Janaea. I doubt they'll care if I say this now. It was like 2018. She visited Britain before she got banned, right?
Right.
And this this is when they were all friends, and she was at his apartment. I've seen the map, by the way, guys.
I don't know what the map is, and I
The
don't.
map, is his backdrop, the famous map of the world. I've been in his flat.
You've seen
I've
the
seen
map.
it. I've seen it in person. He's really tall, by the way. He's massive. They had a party, and she left this. I think she was being really edgy as well and saying stuff, and then she left this necklace behind. He just found it randomly. I don't know if she left it on purpose or by accident. It was apparently I think he believed it was a white nationalist kind of thing, kind of like Pettibone. He wasn't happy, by the way.
Yeah, was it like a Mjolnir necklace or something like that?
No idea. It was some kind of symbol. He knew it was of a racialist origin. Yeah,
I see.
She left it. He was sure that she left it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but who knows why she left it? But like she is a grifter, yeah, and I think she may have some true things to say about him, but he has plenty of true stuff to say about her.
I honestly,
From what I remember, yeah.
I've often said that Paul is way too close to Andrew Tate. What are your thoughts on this whole Andrew Tate thing? Because I mean,
I don't understand why the right wing are taking him as an ally. I don't understand it. I don't get it. And the MRAs too. Apart from Luchin, obviously, he's one of the few MRAs left with any sense, because a lot of them have. Although they're right about men's issues, they've somehow lost their brains when it comes to who to associate with, and some of the non-MRA topics, a lot of the ones that I follow are noticeably pro-Russian, as if I don't know why, as if they're going to be any better to men. In fact, they're worse. They're throwing men into the meat grinder, you idiots. But don't worry, not all of them are like that. But anyway, yeah, I don't understand why they're entertaining him and the red pillar type. I don't like calling them red pillars, but it's, they're either pickup artists or something else entirely. Like just pearly things. I mean, she's a fucking woman grifting off lonely men. Yeah. Why are they taking her seriously? This is a person that years ago, if they were left wing feminists, they would be calling out. Well, apparently because she's saying things that aren't feminist but slightly trad, which, by the way, a lot of MRAs don't like trad cons because they see them as two sides of the same coin. I don't know why all of a sudden they flipped on that issue. Well, and decided that just pearly things is all right and Andrew Tate is all right. The guy's a fucking pimp, a Muslim pimp.
yeah. He Abu the Muslim pimp is a meme for a reason. But then, what was his name? Iggy. You know about Iggy? Iggy. The I'm trying to think of the gentleman's name. He's the master of Shaolin, or whatever it's called. It's like one of Andrew Tate's inner circle guys, and he's a self-proclaimed magician or magic guy, sorcerer, so to speak.
Be right back. There's a tap on. It's doing my head in. Keep the thought.
All right. Let's see if I'm gonna get the information of who Iggy is here. Iggy, not Iggy White. What the hell is his name? Not Iggy Pop. Iggy.
Anyway, continue. Sorry.
That's all good. There's a guy named let's see if Iggy Semmelweis. That's his name. This guy right here. I'll pull up a picture of him. Luke, you could put this up for us real quick.
Pull that shit up, Luke. You're like his Jamie to his Joe Rogan, aren't you, Luke?
He kind of is. I mean, honestly, like, you know how me and Luke met, right?
No, I don't.
We met through Davis Arini. Do you know who Davis Arini is? That's
Oh,
like a
no way,
We
no
did.
fucking way.
We met through Davis Arini.
Do you know all the shortcuts, Luke? Do you know all the keyboard shortcuts?
I keep
He
forgetting.
does.
Not something I boast about.
So yeah, this
I
guy.
still watched. I've gotten back into watching Jordan Owen, by the way.
I like one of the things. Yeah, that guy right there, the one that's not the bald space monkey.
Wait, he's got a beard now.
Yeah.
Well, he always had one, but now it's a big bushy beard. Jesus.
Yeah. So
Oh,
this
was that
guy,
Iggy? Not Davis. I thought it was Davis for some reason.
No.
Looks like
Well, let me just say this about. I've often said that. I've often been told that Andrew Tate is Davis if he had money. You know, and also that Andrew Tate would have been what is his name? Charles Manson if he had money. If that makes any sense.
Ouch.
That yeah.
That's quite an insult.
But Iggy here, this gentleman, the self-proclaimed the master of Wuhan, or whatever the hell it's called, he is very big into the occult. And if you look into again, I keep bringing up the occult because a lot of what we're dealing with does come from the occult, but not because occult is intrinsically valuable. It's because, like how the Marxists would bolster black people because they were the minority, they were the alienated, and as a result they could have been radicalized.
Mm-hmm.
You had pagans who basically were you could take that down, by the way, now, Luke. You had people who were basically who got hijacked, essentially. Like Diana Wicca is a perfect example. I actually think that Venti, of all people, Brittany Venti, and I like her to a certain degree, but I watch her every so often.
I don't like her.
Oh, what don't you like about her? May I ask?
She's just. It's hard to explain with her. She's just I think she's no more. I don't think she's any more of a. All the thoughts she criticizes, I think she's just as bad as them.
Well, a lot of it is like the notion that sex is sacred, right? So what was her whole shtick? She worships Artemis, right? Artemis.
Didn't she become famous by being a thought?
Well, she did, but the difference here, she's a thought with morals. She's a harlot with a heart of gold, so to speak.
A harlot with morals, okay.
A harlot with yeah. I mean, she gets to choose who she wants to be with, right? She's selective. She's not just some whore who has OnlyFans. She's a whore who has OnlyFans, but also donates to battered women's shelters. So she makes it moral. It's a marketing gimmick. But I think a lot of this occult stuff that I've talked about, if you look at, I'm going to may talk about. We can talk about Satanism if you want. A lot of this
depends which Satanism, though, right? Is it LaVeyan?
LaVeyan.
Yeah,
we're going to talk.
I hate to say it, but I used to know. I know a guy who used to be a LaVeyan Satanist. He's a libertarian guy called Jim Jesus. So you should. Well, he doesn't make videos much anymore, but you should still watch him because he's good. I have quite a little bit of a soft spot because of its libertarian leanings, and if you actually look into LaVey as a person, like as his political stances, he was a conservative. Like he was more conservative than
most
some of the people online. He was like very anti-abortion and very much. Like when it comes to marriage and stuff, for him personally, he was all about that traditional stuff.
Yeah,
but Satanism itself it's a lifestyle and a grift. But he's at least upfront with it. He's like, look, pay me money to do some silly rituals and do whatever you want. It is do as thou wilt, right? That's how I understand it.
Well, let me just say this about do what thou wilt, and this is something that if I ever encounter sticks, I'm
not a Satanist, just so you know, guys. Although I just like the libertarian aspect of it. He had a lot of interesting things to say in that regard.
I've listened, again, doing my due diligence to look into some of the stuff because again, I do believe that a lot of these white nationalists are heavily influenced by that guy and that particular clique, if that makes any sense.
Well, all he did was rip off Ayn Rand and Ragnar Redbeard.
Yep. That's and again, and this is sort
Well,
of
he
one of
admitted
the-
it.
well,
He at least
yeah.
admitted it.
Yep, but then the question then becomes, okay, so if you could rip off Ayn Rand and Ragnar Redbeard and basically claim that your religion is objectivism with a show, at what point do you get to call yourself a religion, right? And for
I
tax
don't think he
purposes.
really. I mean, it's
He
just a
paid.
grift, isn't it? Right? A
Yeah, but
parody and a grift. That's how I always saw Satan. That kind of Satanism as anyway.
But one of the things I like, one of the people I like personally, and I don't really watch him enough, but he's somebody who Beckloff gave the okay for, and I kind of trust what Beckloff says because Beckloff is Beckloff, and he's honest about what he's all about. He's what was his name? He was in the Manosphere, the red pill type of guy. What is his name? Jack Donovan, I believe. You know Jack Donovan? He was a Satanist at one point as well.
It doesn't ring a bell. No, I mean, again, I never would be one because it's just retarded. You know, why would I? I mean, I'm an atheist anyway. But if I wanted to find a religion, the last thing I'd want is one that's a fake religion.
Yeah, this guy
that
right
makes fun of like various different types.
This gentleman right here, Luke, Jack Donovan, the way of the man, becoming a barbarian, fire in the dark, masculinity, stay solar.
My god, that stuff is such a grift. It's unreal. Like, these people don't actually know what masculinity even is.
Well, I've often said that masculinity is a cultural norm, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it is. And like, you don't have to look like him to be masculine, you know?
Yeah, well, he's gay. You know that, right? He's a gay guy.
He is. I mean, again, you can be masculine and gay, but, you know, I'm not surprised that he is.
But at the same time, a lot of this stuff does have its, like, a lot of the pickup artistry has its roots in the occult. I mean, I think it was Iggy, going back to Andrew Tate, he talks about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which is really just how to talk to people in such a way to be more persuasive. So you can persuade someone into bed as opposed to, it's basically how you chat up someone to vet them.
It's the same old shit that they've been serving us for how long?
Probably since the cradle, I'd imagine.
Exactly. Like, look, before Andrew Tate, it was Rish V, and before him, it was somebody else. Like, PUA, controversial guys. It's cancer, but it comes in waves and cycles. There's always some new guy who comes around who's always a bit more edgy than the last, and then they always burn out. Yep. Andrew Tate is going to burn out at some point.
I think that Andrew Tate, honestly, is going to be the millennial equivalent of Charles Manson. I really do think he is, given how many people have been around him and how many people who have actual stuff to lose when it comes to saving face. He's going to basically bring a lot of people down with him. I mean, what was her name? There was this bird. What the hell was her name? Ashton Birdie, I believe. Yeah, the bird, right? She talked about how Charlie Kirk had like casting couches for like some of these women.
Charlie Kirk, I've met Charlie Kirk as well. You know, he was really rude. He didn't even acknowledge me. He only acknowledged the person I was with.
Oh,
he was interested in meeting her.
Yeah, and a lot of these people are doing it to get laid. I really do believe that these.
No, he didn't want to get laid with her. He just knew who she was.
Who was she?
Janaea, the girl I mentioned. She used to be a bit of a personality. Because she went viral, mainly through some anti-left stuff, but also, although she was kind of left-wing herself, but also she had a run-in with the Greater Manchester Police that she won, I think, eventually. Yeah, and that made headlines because it kind of crossed paths with all the rest of us, and she just became like a well-known figure within. You know, like she knew Sargon and all those other people. I mean, I knew him too, but she knew him more than I did. You know, right. And Charlie Kirk, she was part of Turning Point UK for a bit. She left for various reasons, and that's how he knew who she was. But I was also with two other people, her friends, who I'd love to get back in contact with because, this stuff that's gone on. But they were really nice people, and I'd love to see them again. But he never once said hi to us. He just talked to her. He's also incredibly tall, by the way.
Charlie Kirk is
tall. I know. Oh yeah, he's massive, mate. He's really big. Like he may not be like big, muscular or anything, but like he's really tall and like
lanky.
Yeah, like, I know I'm 5'8". I'm not that big. I'm not that tall. But usually, if someone's over 6 foot, I'm at least above their shoulder, right? I was looking right up at the ceiling with him, and he's probably not that tall. He's at least 6'6".
I've always said
It
he was
felt
like
like it.
I always thought, well, maybe he's on a booster seat or something like that. You never know
Oh
with
no,
these
he's
people.
massive. He's really tall.
Shit.
I also briefly saw Nigel Farage as well. It was like a night with a rat. Like
Jeez.
he did the speech. It was really good, but I've kind of I don't really like Farage either. Really, I just think he's a waste of space. Nothing political. He's just a waste of space nowadays.
Yep. You know, I agree with you on that. And if you want to talk about going back to grifters for a second, fucking Mundane Matt, good old Boulder man
Oh
himself.
God, is he even still going?
He is. He actually, he recently admitted he was talking to Vaush of all people, and
Well, I'm not surprised he did go back to the left.
He did, and a lot of this is because, again, the money. I really do believe a lot of this is the money. I mean, if you really, I could tell the exact date when we realized that it no longer became about principles, it became about money, was when I think Sargon was debating Richard Spencer on Andy Worski's stream.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, and he says, "You're really not as smart as you think you are." Like, look, maybe Carl has a slight arrogant streak in him. I personally think he's a really nice guy in real life. I may have disagreements with him and get frustrated with him nowadays, and might be quite unfiltered in how I talk about him. I mean, I'm unfiltered about everybody, to be honest, unless I really have to be. I have to be, on my best behavior. But like, what? When Richard Spencer said that wasn't a gotcha. I never felt it was a gotcha. I know I was biased back then, but even now I'm like, why? Even people who didn't like Richard Spencer but didn't like Sargon laughed at that and thought it was a big gotcha. It's like, that was just Spencer saying something because he had no actual response.
Well, we've been going almost for 3 hours here.
Yeah, no. Do you want to continue what you were saying? Yeah.
So I say that the moment that the internet or the internet dissident right or whatever got bought out is when the moment when Worski was actually broadcasting how much money he was making. They were like making $1,500-$1,200 in that stream alone. That's like a good. That's rent right there. From one stream, yeah.
I think that was the beginning of it, but we didn't realize what it would become.
Yeah.
But I would say, I can't remember what I was going to say. I would say it started. Because you were talking about Monday Matt. Not everybody who moved to the left during that time were grifters, though. They genuinely decided that they didn't like what. It was many things. I think a lot of them couldn't handle the reality of the situation and wanted to go back to what they knew.
Yep.
But others felt had really petty reasons. So they had too many personal beefs with people on the right. It was nothing political. They didn't like somebody. They got called out for something that they shouldn't have done. So rather than admit their mistakes and become better people, they moved back to the left, thinking there'd be a home there. When really, I think most of them struggled to find a good home there when they went back. I remember, in particular, Kraut is an example of the pettiness because of his own moral failings. He moved back to the left, and another person who was tangentially related to that drama, who actually did nothing wrong. Do you remember Wosley, the orange guy? He was literally an orange as an avatar, kind of, with a face.
I don't.
He was a Cockney guy. I was friends with him, and he threw us all under the bus. He went back to the left and threw us all under the bus because he didn't do any of the doxing yet. That's Wosley, yeah. And I think that's the video where he was. Was it? I don't know what that was. Is that a new video?
I think.
When was that released?
When was that released?
2 years ago, right? Yeah. Some of them. One of them there is his response to what happened with the Kraut drama, because he was in the Discord server where the doxing was taking place, but he personally didn't do anything. Even though I dislike him intensely nowadays, I can vouch for him.
There was also Bunty King.
Oh, he was always a grifter, though.
Lauren Chen. I keep saying Lauren Chen is a grifter because there's
She
just
kind
too,
of is.
she kind of is, but like if you the more I look, like again,
It's cute girl says based, well, not even based things, just common sense shit, and becomes famous as a result.
yep,
Oh, and she's a minority, which helps.
yep. She
Oh, then
literally
you got
is.
Candace Owens, who I think is trying to subvert the right.
She is. She absolutely is. I mean,
She notice how she never once apologized for the social autopsy thing she did, or whatever it was called.
I don't think she could ever apologize because here's the thing. I know a little bit more about tech than the average right winger because like one of the things that we talk about is the right the left can't meme, but the right cannot encrypt. They don't know anything about technology, so like you have these insane takes. Let's ban pornography on the internet. And I'm like, that's not possible. Like you could ban Pornhub, but then you'll just get a VPN and it'll be no different than watching Doctor Who in the States, right? You just go watch it on the BBC player, right? And or the VPNs or
Banning
whatnot.
TikTok would be better, actually.
Well, ban TikTok, but not only from like you can ban TikTok at least on the ISP level, but I would not recommend it. I would just ban it from the app stores and it'll go away. Like Zoomers are incredibly lazy when it comes to technology, so just ban it on the app store, and I think they should because if you watch Mudahar, and I like Mudahar even though he's not technically a right wing or a left wing, he's just a guy.
It's good when he does his cybersecurity stuff, although I find a lot of his other content a little bit it's a bit hit and miss. But his cybersecurity stuff is on point.
It is. It absolutely is. And, I don't know. I'm kind of winding down, honestly.
Oh, shit. Can you pause that video? Oh, you have.
Pause it.
Sorry. I've never seen that screenshot in my life.
What is that?
The Woz Lee one that Luke's got up. Hey, dude, could you... I can do his voice, actually. Hang on, you got to be nasally. Hi, dude, could you relay that target section of the Discord to something like peoples of interest? Or something. If this group leaks, which it will, because they always do, have a section labeled targets isn't a good look. Yeah. He knew they were doing something in that, but told them to change the title. He may not have engaged in the doxing, but he let it happen. Which is not a good look.
How are you going to stop it though? I mean, you could inform people about their being looked into.
He should have leaked it. He should have leaked it himself, but no, apparently not.
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
But that's probably why Kraut didn't have me in, because I would have leaked it.
Again, I like what before we go, like what is your definition of doxing? Because I mean, I could very well argue that I've doxed people, but I haven't I've often said
when you leak someone's personal information that isn't otherwise publicly known, or at the very least, even if it's something that can be found in the public domain, it's not something that on social media people know.
So, like Kiwi Farms would be considered doxing then? I'd imagine.
Yeah, they do dox people.
Nah, and then I guess I.
But again, some of it is stuff that we already know anyway, so it's not doxing at that point. But I think they have doxed people in the past that we didn't know their real names and stuff. It wasn't readily known in the public space.
I see, because I use them as information.
Oh, so do I. But that has happened. You can't deny it.
Well, I can, but I could.
Chris Chan is Christian Meston Chandler is not doxing because he says
tells
his name.
People. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Coach
we even know where he
Gonzalo
lives.
Lira.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I got you on that. But any final thoughts? And where can we find you by chance?
You can find me currently, but not for very long, on the Mitch channel. I have been meaning to make a new channel, but I have some trepidation. I don't know if I've been enjoying not making videos for so long that I don't know if I want to come back to YouTube. But I kind of do at the same time. And I want to make a new channel, but I have a name for it, but I don't want to spoil anything just yet. But I don't know how I'm going to go about building the channel, because I feel that when I made this last channel, remember I had an older one called Charming Man 93. For those of you who may remember. That got near 10k subs, but then the algorithm killed it. So I thought, well, if I move to a new channel with my regular viewers, I can grow again. It didn't work. My regular viewers, most of them stopped viewing for various reasons anyway, so it stagnated. So I thought, well, it'd be better if I just made a new channel with blackjack and hookers.
I gotcha.
And I thought, rather than, I mean, I never really wanted politics to be the main thing anyway originally, but I just got you get suckered into it, you know. Like
Yep.
the best thing about Razor Fist and why his channel has a lot of longevity and why it can grow is because he doesn't just stick to politics. He didn't even start out
I can remember.
doing politics.
I remember him watching, doing the whole Death Wish, I guess quadrilogy, or I guess it's quintilogy, the Death Wish
those
franchise.
5 films. Yeah.
Yeah.
He still does reviews and stuff like that, and streams, you know, video games and stuff.
Yeah,
So
but
like, I if I was going to do it again, I would try and diversify my content so it's not just politics all the time. It's good for the soul as well. He probably doesn't get burnout because of that as well.
Yep. And you know, I again, we're all pretty much guilty of not diversifying and making enough content. But Luke, any final thoughts on this?
Like the man says, don't take life too seriously. You'll never get out of it alive.
Wait, I also have a sound pad. I also have a soundboard.
All right. What would you like to say?
One sec. I need to set this up. So you talk for a bit while I sort this out.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a very long time coming to get Mitch on here, and so far we've had a 3-hour podcast and just talking, and we didn't even have a topic to really talk about. We just talked about current events, honestly, and our opinions on certain matters. I honestly think that it's more important nowadays, especially to have dialogue as opposed to debates. I would rather just pick Richard Spencer's mind than actually argue whether or not, the Holocaust happened or something along those lines. I personally think picking people's brains and just having a conversation and just chatting over, eating or dinner or talking is just more important, especially since it's better for our health as a society and as a whole to find out why people believe the things they believe or whatnot. And yeah, there might be some debate or a pushback here and there with the conversation, but the most important thing is to keep the channels of communication open to avoid disaster, so to speak. But
Very
yeah,
true.
we'll get you on another time, and maybe we'll have you debate Wolf, and we could also have.
Are you ready for this?
I'm
Here's
ready.
my final words.
All right.
Oh, I don't think you heard that. Did you hear that?
I did not hear it, unfortunately.
God damn it! It's the wrong thing. One sec. I will get this sorted out.
All right, figure it out. Take your time. Whew.
Second. Well, it should really be using this.
You can
Right, one sec.
post in the chat if you can.
Oh, it just won't do it. One sec. It needs to use my. Oh. It was working last time. I had it working.
It's all good.
One sec.
Take your time. Anyhow.
I had to do some resetting, but it should work now.
Try it.
It's saying it's good. Are you ready?
Democracy.
Democracy.
That's one of my masterpiece sound bites that I created myself.
All right, everyone. Take care of one another. Be good to one another, and remember, saving the West is a side quest. This is the Digital Renegade podcast.
Don't will the end times, whatever it's called.
Don't immunize the eschaton.
That's it.
Amen.